Well, hello and welcome to Donington Park, the penultimate round of the British GT Championship. Round 8, and it's all to play for. Normally the site, the location of the decider, the Donington decider, but not here in 2024. We have one more round to go at Brands Hatch at the end of this month. But lots and lots of nervy drivers here at Brands Hatch, and the sun is shining. And I tell you what, over the last couple of days, we haven't said that a whole too much because it's been rainy, it's been mixed, and it's very, very greasy here behind me in the pit lane, although out on track, very nice and dry. And we expect that to stay maybe for the entire race. As I say, the scene is set. There are quite a few points between 1st and 5th in GT3, but still, it's all up for grabs between those positions, with Sean Bouth sitting happily in 3rd place. 41.5 between 1st and 5th place in GT3. 28 points, though, separate the top 4 in GT4, and only 2.5 points separate the leaders and 2nd place. So it is all to play for. Like I say, some nervy drivers discussing with a few of them how they approach this one. Is it best to win? Is it best to finish outside of the podium so you don't have a pit stop compensation time when it comes down to Brands Hatch and the decider? Lots to get through. We'll speak to many, many of the drivers over the next 20 minutes or so before we get underway here with the racing. But before we do, here's a quick reminder of what happened last time out at Snetterton.
And it is going to be Rob Collard versus Alex Martin with a very keen Ian Loggy right there behind the Mercedes as the lights change. We go racing then down towards Riches for the first time. The Lamborghinis go toe-to-toe. Collard leads, he brakes late. Loggy up the inside and Richard near it yet again. Closes the door, locks it, bolts it. There's no way through for Loggy, who opens the door instead for Petrobelli and for Sasha Kakan in the Audi. So Loggy loses a place to the Aston Martin. So Sandy Mitchell and Alex Martin win race 1 of British GT at Snetterton. In GT4, it is a first win for Charlie Robinson and Rami Ramyeed. The lights are red, the lights go out, we go racing, and who makes the best start then as they thunder down towards turn 1 on board with Ricky Collard? It is going to be Sandy Mitchell on the inside, Phil Keane on the outside. Keep an eye to Maxi Goetz, the Mercedes factory driver in number 18, the blue and pink Mercedes on the inside line. He's very much a man on his toes on this first couple of corners, but Mitchell will lead, Keane 2nd, and Goetz alongside Gamble for 3rd. From Mayhem behind those, the 2 key players out of race 1. Rami Ramyeed and Charlie Robinson's BMW is off the road with Freddie Tomlinson's Ginetta and Charlie Robinson at the wheel of the BM. Tom Wrigley, who gets into the side of the Mustang, contact between the 2. He had 62 Mustang, has got big problems, it slowed right down. I thought it was tar smoke initially, but I think that's something mechanical.
Oh, contact, but he's past Bouth. A lot of damage there for Tim Docker, that's why he didn't want to be at Snetterton. You can see a lot of damage on Tim Docker. That's day done front left, completely destroyed.
The Lamborghini is going to win, but it's a reduced margin over the Mercedes. Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell take race honours then. GT4 again giving really, really good racing. Jack Brown and Zach Meakin coming home ahead of Mikey Porter and Jamie Day. And after 2 dramatic races at Snetterton, we look forward to more British GT action before the end of the season. So 2 hours of action here at Donington Park coming up, and this promises to be a really fascinating penultimate round of the British GT Championship. The cars will be making their way out onto the circuit very shortly. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, and as I say, we're looking forward to what promises to be a really fascinating race in isolation, yes, but also how that's going to affect the championship. Track temperature is going up all the time. Road is drying after lots of heavy overnight rain. The Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, 2.5 miles long, and Joe, it's a lap with lots of things in it.
Yeah, so much place is for jeopardy, really, and you can see the flows. We go through McLean's, up to Coppice, down the long backstroke, through the chicane, and that is really the hot spot with the tyre stacks there to enforce track limits before 2 big stops at the end of the lap to really promote some big overtaking opportunities for all of these drivers today.
So the cars will be making their way out onto the circuit shortly. Let's just bear in mind where we stand in the championship as well coming into this race. We've had a good mix of winners across both GT3 and GT4, but in GT3 it is Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell who come here as championship leaders by 25 points from the Collards, father and son, Rob and Ricky. Sean Balfe and Adam Smalley come next. They've already won the silver amp part of the championship in Loggy and Phil Keane 4. They've got a change of car for this weekend, we'll come to shortly. They are in turn ahead of Mark Radcliffe and Tom Gamble, with Kevin Say and Maxi Goetz, double winners this year, lying in 6th. And if you've got people of the quality of Johnny Adam, only 12th, you can therefore perhaps understand just how competitive a championship it has been this year. We've had a number of people in GT3 that have come in and out, not done the whole season. One or two drivers, like, for example, John Ferguson, has had different co-drivers. Raffaele Marciello, now Max Hesse with him once more, and hopefully for the remainder of the season. So, with the sun shining and the teams ready to go, the pit lane not yet open, the grid is starting to take shape, and that's a reminder of how we stand within GT3, where there is Pro-Am and Silver-Am, and Pro-Am is where you find the Collards, and Silver-Am is where you find this rather dominant combination of Sean Balfe and Adam Sporty, who won outright at Silverstone in the 3-hour race back at the end of April. Now, when we got here this morning, lots of heavy overnight rain had made for a very wet circuit. Now the sun is shining. There are even people in shorts bravely outside. It's still a little bit damp offline, but Joe, I don't think there's really much argument about tyre choice now. No,
definitely not on that, and not even setup of the cars. These will be 100% committed to a dry race now. 2 hours. A lot of the teams in warm-up earlier, we said, and then when I spoke to them, they were hedging their bets in almost a hybrid setup, not quite wet, not quite dry, just to keep their window open. But now they will be focused. The biggest change is track temp, like you alluded to. It's rising quickly. It is warm. We're just at the end of summer, but the temperature will keep rising. And the biggest problem there is tyre pressures. They're going to come out of the oven where they want to be, but if they rise too much, the Pirelli really starts to move around underneath you as a driver, and that generates more heat, which moves around more, and before you know it, you're probably in the gravel somewhere.
And also, one of the things the teams have been quite glad about, I think, is this decision of which direction the weather is going. The last thing they wanted to do was go to the grid undecided as to whether to start on slicks or wets. And now, as you suggest, there is really no argument. There's a rather nervous Martin Plowman there, standing or crouching next to Mark Smith's car as they get set to release that from the pit lane. They'll do a lap round to the grid, and then there'll be a bit of feedback from the driver. Any last-minute tweaks can be made there. Rolling start, so they don't stop on the grid once the formation lap is completed. They go straight into the race. We've got two categories, GT3 and GT4. There are subclasses to those. The GT3 cars go ahead of the GT4 on the grid, just a little bit safer on the opening couple of laps, not to have faster cars having to thread their way through the slower GT4 field. And it's a 2-hour race with just one obligatory pit stop. Now, depending on which category you run in, the start driver has a minimum time, and it's slightly different. So in GT4, the start driver's minimum is 58 minutes, and the maximum they can do is 70. In GT3, start driver must do a minimum of 62 minutes, and the maximum, again, is 70. So there's no window as such, but you can work it out from those minimum and maximum times. The idea really is to try and make the AM driver, the lower graded driver, the theoretically slower driver, do quite a lot of the work.
Yeah, exactly. And the delta's getting smaller every year between the AMs and the pros. So those top AMs we were talking about in qualifying, only 1.5 seconds off the pro time. So it's a time loss, but it's not so severe. Here at Donington, the pit lane is relatively tight. So there's only that 4-minute window between the GT4s coming in at 58 and then 62. So those guys might want to pit slightly earlier if they're a silver pairing in GT4 potentially, to give themselves a bit more space before those GT3s are allowed to pit.
In GT4, the only double winning car, in fact triple winning car, is the McLaren that heads the championship courtesy of Jack Brown and Zach Meakin. They're ahead of Mikey Porter and Jamie Day, with Mark Warren and William Orton next. Charles Dawson has been another standout driver this year. He's with Seb Morris fourth, from Eric Evans, reigning champion, and Marco Signoretti. Ian Goff and Tom Wrigley, who had a win at Spa, they are sixth. So GT4, very competitive indeed. The Lotuses were looking quick this morning. The Ian Duggan, Gordy Much car, and also Nathan Harrison and Stephen Lake's entry. We've had rapid Ginettas over the course of the season. The Grunt and Go Mustangs, real fan favourites, real commentary box favourites as well. So there's an awful lot to keep an eye on in GT4. Yeah, they might be a little bit slower and be further down the overall order, but the level of competition, Joe, is just as fierce.
Yeah, and the spread of how they generate that lap time, like you said, with the BOP, is a bit more spread out, I'd say, in GT4. The Mustang is the slowest in the corner, but then the fastest in the straight. The Lotus and probably the McLaren Artura, the fastest in the corner, but then the slowest in the straight. So the racing just seems to have been a bit dicier in that GT4 category than these bigger GT3s that you can see the Lamborghini, and they've dominated, haven't they, this year? Barwell leading the championship drivers, and they can wrap the teams up as well this weekend, and they go well here at Donington.
Yeah, Sandy Mitchell and Barwell looking for a third straight Donington win, and also bearing in mind that it's Sandy's local circuit, kind of, these days. Although he's Scottish, he's based in Nottingham these days, so relatively local circuit. And British GT at Donington always delivers drama. It delivered lots of action and lots of rain back in late May. Well, thankfully, the weather conditions very different indeed. There is Sandy Mitchell on the right as you look. In the middle is Alex Martin, who's been very impressive indeed this year, coming new into GT racing really for a full season. We've seen him in Carrera Cup, seen him in Ferrari Challenge, seen him in the British Touring Car Championship for a spell. Well, he didn't sparkle in fairness, but in a GT car, GT3 as well, he has been the real deal as a very quick am.
Yeah, and that's what GT3, the concept was about, right? Stefan Rattel saw the vision of these amateur drivers like driving fast cars. Well, let's make the car about them rather than it historically always being about the pro, quite hard to drive and quite leery. The GT3 cars are really fast, but also quite easy to drive within a window. But the problem is then it makes the last few tenths very difficult. So the AMs still stand out if they're good, but their grouping is much, much better. The interesting element there with Martin is going to be how he interacts with Collard, their teammates. What you've got to remember is that doesn't mean anything. They both bring their own budget. There is no team orders there. So it's almost worse that they're both fast because they're doing the same speed in the same car. The clash possibility goes through the roof.
It's bad news in terms of any on-track drama. It's bad news, really, in terms of the pit stops as well, because if they come in at the same time, it becomes very difficult to service two cars at the same time and as quickly. You know, you almost need some breathing space, like a lap, but if you do that, you're in danger of losing track position because people on fresher tyres. Yeah, it's quite a dilemma for Mark Lemmer's team to have at Barwell.
Yeah, and then when you've got the compensation time for that Collard car, if they box first but have got 5 seconds longer in the pits, then they're blocking in the Martin car if that comes in within 5 seconds. So do you stop the first car in the second box, the first box? There's only just enough space for 2 Lamborghinis in length without a millimetre in between. That's the big issue.
True enough. Right, pit lane is open. Cars making their way out onto what looks to be a pretty much dry circuit. We are confident it's going to be a dry race. Whether that confidence is misplaced, Bryn Lucas can confirm, because he's down on the grid.
It's dry now. It's really, really muggy, David, I have to say. But also, as you say, cars are leaving the pit lane, so they're going to come round here pretty quickly and get to us. But before we do, a quick look at the track here. A lot of people here at Donington Park as well. It's great to see the fans out in their masses. But look at the track as well, because currently where I am, it's completely dry, as you can see here. But you move slightly offline to here, and it's very, very greasy just underfoot right now to the edge of the track, and also on the inside as well. Which means as you head down to the outside of Turn 1, Redgate down there, it's extremely greasy offline, as we mentioned, and for the rolling start, some people are going to be at an advantage and some not so. I fear that this one might be a lively start heading down there as we take a quick look down and see the cars start to make their way through, as I say. So yeah, big atmosphere, a good atmosphere for this penultimate race here at Donington Park. A lot of people are expecting to see drama. Quick thoughts on some of the drivers. I spoke to the Collards earlier on, kind of a tech talk with them, what's your plan, what's your game plan, and they said it's best to finish first or fourth here going into that decider at Brands Hatch. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Win the race here, or finish fourth. It's the way it's going to be. Perhaps we'll have to wait and see.
So first gives you maximum championship points, and because this is a longer round, there are more points available. So a win is good news because you get the points. If you can't win it, fourth. Why only fourth? Well, because that means you're outside the top 3 and you don't carry any pit stop compensation time into the last race at Brands Hatch, and therefore it's a shorter pit stop, which can in theory buy you back some places. That, I suspect, is the logic. Joe is giving me a cynical look.
Racing drivers talk rubbish, don't they? And now I'm out of the car more, I can really hear it. So if they're running in second, they're going to pull over and let 2 cars by, are they? I don't quite believe that. I see the logic, but you want points in the table, and if you're in second place, you're going to take those points and fight out at Brands Hatch, because if there's a safety car around the pit window, the time penalty just becomes 0 instantly. So, yeah, good chat, but don't believe them.
It sounded good, didn't it? No doubt, as Rob offered the words. There is the Collard Lamborghini. Rob will go first. It's the lower graded driver that will go first, the higher graded driver to go second. That's GT4 you're looking at. The number 25 Breckle Racing Mercedes AMG, James Breckle to go first. Harley Horton, the 18-year-old, will take over. It's good to have that car back into British GT. Looking very smart, as well as the Mercedes always does. The grid is starting to take shape. Cars are still pouring their way out of the pit lane. The Donington Grand Prix circuit, which was opened in this configuration with here the S's and then the Grand Prix Loop. In 1985, that was the year Formula 3000 was created to replace Formula 2 at the time. Formula 2 had been a regular visitor to Donington. Formula 3000 was on the calendar, and then the FIA turned around and said, oh, by the way, your track needs to be 2.5 miles long these days. So the quickest thing that Tom Wheatcroft and Robert Fernell could do was to bang on the Grand Prix Loop, and that September racing on the Grand Prix circuit came, and of course it had a Grand Prix itself in 1993. Cars onto the grid then. A busy grid, as we've been hearing, with the teams, with the VIPs, with the officials, with the media down there as well. We'll have a chance, no doubt, to hear from one or two of the drivers, but a great sight, a full GT grid makes. It was at Donington back in 1993 that the British GT Championship started. In those days, it was the National Sports and GT Challenge. The first race, from memory, had about 8 cars. They were all Porsches. Boy, how it's grown. Yeah,
it's just a phenomenal sight, isn't it? So many manufacturers as well. Mercedes represented well around the world, but in British GT now having 4 cars in GT4, the most popular car there, and the Porsche back. It's lovely to be able to say that and hear it out on track. We know this car won last time as a manufacturer in 2014 with one of its drivers, Phil Keane, the pro that we'll be sharing with Ian Logie, who's on board at the moment. You can see a lot of the yellow tape there, quite interesting. They obviously have to blank it off. I assume they take that off when they get to the grid. That's just in aiding. Definitely the front end there for the brakes you can see on the radiator. And the side one must be the engine cooling. So just getting everything up to temperature. Ian Logie moving from Mercedes, where he's been a long time. He's staying with 2Cs. Interestingly, normally teams stick with a manufacturer. So for them to be running one Mercedes for Kevin Say and Maxi Götz, and then a Porsche for Logie and Phil Keane is a little interesting, to say the least. There'll be no data they can share. So I think they're doing it ahead of a proper campaign in 2025, and this is a transitional end of year.
Interesting, isn't it, though, that I know that Ian Logie, Phil Keane has been the partnership of the season, but you wonder whether there was ever a discussion to put a Porsche Factory Pro in the car as a benchmark, as a level who would know exactly how the car should be and to set it up. Yeah, you're right, Phil Keane's won in Porsches. That was 10 years ago. This is a different type of Porsche.
Yeah, I mean, I love Phil Keane, so I'm not going to be able to give a counter-argument, but we've seen Ian Logie go with a factory driver and get worse. The factory driver is fast, they're robotic, they go round in circles, and a lot of the time they actually don't understand the real world, and I say this a lot, and it's hard for them to then coach the AM. So they might be 1/10 faster than Phil Keane, great job, but if Ian Logie is 2 seconds a lap slower, you're at a net deficit, so it just makes no sense. And I think Ian Loggie's now realised that Phil is very quick, doesn't crash, and can make him the better driver. And as a package, that's the solution to his problem.
And they're running the livery, which Porsche ran to win Le Mans in 1998. Cam's number 6, the 2Cs Motorsport, the Anglo-Bahraini team. The livery was carried on the Porsche 911 GT1 to win at Le Mans that year. It was Laurent Aiello, Alain McNish, Stefano Ortelli who won Le Mans, and it's that retro livery. And Ian Logie has been big into retro liveries of late, whether it's been on this Porsche or the Mercedes and the D2 colours before it. And it's a livery that also was seen at Donington in the FIA GT Championship around that time. So the grid getting busy. There we can see the back of the GT4 pack. At the front of it, though, the GT3 field, and it's probably about time Bryn Lucas went for a walk.
Well, here's the man that was talking a bit of rubbish earlier on, you say, Joe. Here's Ricky Collard off to my right, just to your left as you're looking. We won't speak to him. We're going to find out the thoughts of Sandy Mitchell, but it was him that was saying first or fourth. And you're right by saying that maybe that's an ideal, but if you are second, of course you're going to take second. You're not going to hold back. One man here who never holds back is this man, Sandy. How you doing? Good to have you on the grid here, Sandy. Now, not starting where you'd want in this one here, particularly look at the championship standings. Are you concerned at all about when it comes down to the pit stops and how you double stack?
Yeah, it obviously makes it a little bit trickier if the cars come in as they are just now, because you know we hopefully won't be spending quite as long in the pit lane. But yeah, Alex knows that if we come in front, then we get priority in the pit lane as well. So it's all to play for. So I'm sure the guys will be going for it in the first stint.
You're very much used to this situation when it comes down to trying to win titles. You've won it before as well with the guy in the car ahead of you. So how do you approach this one with 2 rounds to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you've now at this stage of the year got one eye on the championship and how that's looking. But at the end of the day, we've got hopefully a simple, straightforward 2-hour race in front of us with one pit stop in the middle. So if we can execute that well and good clean pit stop, good stints on the right tyres, we'll be fine.
Dispel the myth for me. Ricky was saying earlier on when you look at the points, you'd rather finish first, but if you're not going to finish first here, when you look at the final round, you want to finish fourth because you don't get any penalty there. Is that true, or would you rather take second?
I think mathematically at the end of the season you can always say that, but at the end of the day, when the points are there to be had, you've got to take them, because you never know what can happen at Brands Hatch if you both have a bit of a tricky round, or it rains at the wrong time and you're both down the grid a little bit. Then all of a sudden you wish you bagged those points earlier in the season. So I don't think there'll be any games like that. We'll be going flat out and trying to get on the podium and win the race if we can.
Well, best of luck. Thanks, Sandy. Let's go for a little bit of a wander, shall we, there. So, dispelling a bit of a myth maybe there, Joe, you are correct. You know, smelling out a rat, I'm sure. A bit further up here, John Ferguson's just on the left-hand side. He's got a different teammate now in Max Hess. He's there as well, so it's good to see him with his different teammate and see how that one pans out for John Ferguson. Let's get a word. Here's Adam Smalley. Let's get a word with Adam Smalley. This is Sean Bough's teammate, and third in the championship. Well, that's an amazing thing when you think of your driver pairing, your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a privilege to be here in my first season fighting for the overall title. Obviously won the Silver Am title last time out at Snetterton, but the ultimate goal is the overall title. We're in the fight. We've made it a little bit hard work for ourselves starting from 8th, but it's a 2-hour race. Anything can happen, and yeah, looking forward to it.
It certainly can. I mean, you're third in the championship, and the points-wise, it's a bit of a deficit. It could be made up. There are still 75 points, in fact, available.
75 points and, yeah, 4 hours worth of racing. So, now I'm looking forward to it. As I said, starting from here is a little bit of a challenge, but qualifying didn't quite fall our way. We've sort of proved where we're at in warm-up this morning. Quickest overall, and hope we can maintain that in the race and hope we go forward.
Conditions-wise, it does look like it's going to be dry. Is that what you're hoping for, a dry race?
To be honest, the weather forecast has been completely out all week. You know, the one nice day we had was the day off, but yeah, I've kind of ignored that, looking at the clouds. But I think wet or dry, we've got a good car, so fingers crossed we can bring home a good result.
Yeah, hashtag living your best life. Well done there. Thank you very much. Now, David, I'm going to go to the back of the grid and try and find Ian Loggy in his brand new car. So hand back to you while I disappear off there.
Bryn, thank you very much. Yes, the back of the GT3 grid, sadly, is where you find the Porsche, but no doubt in 2 hours' time, 2 hours and a bit time, it would have made some progress. Adam Smalley, just to make the point, coming new into GT racing this year, having won Carrera Cup GB last season. There, on pole position, is Rob Collard, who is probably now the benchmark AM driver. He's come a long way from his oval racing roots and many, many years, largely for BMWs in British Touring Car Championship events. There is son Ricky, who has come back from touring cars towards GT racing, having been a winner in GT World Challenge Europe for Aston Martin a few seasons back, former Formula 4 single-seater gun. And this dad and lad combination could be making history as the first father-son combination to win the championship by the end of the year. Let's see. We've got this race and 2 more hours at Brands Hatch at the end of September to go. The grid boards then, with the numbers of the cars in grid position, representing who starts where. And the taxi that Bryn had hollered had taken him to mid-grid. We can rejoin him round about Ian Loggy's Porsche.
Yeah. Mid-grid for the entire grid, but right at the back of the grid for GT3, which is not a place, Phil, that you're used to being.
Well, no, I mean, it's a new car, and you know, we're slowly learning it. I think we made some progress over the weekend, so we'll see what we can do in the race.
2014 was the last time Porsche won a race in British GT. You were at the wheel then. Can you do that again here today?
Well, I think it'll be a tall ask, but we'll give it our all, and I think we've made some improvements from yesterday, so we'll just see what the race brings.
If you can jump into the mind of Ian Loggy for a moment, what made him make the decision to change to the Porsche?
I think he fancied a car change for next year, and you know, he's always loved Porsche, and it seems the most sensible option. And to do it two races before the end of the year, we thought was better to do that and get some practice in and arrive at round 1 next year prepared for the season. So we couldn't win the championship anymore in the Mercedes, so yeah. That was the thought process.
Learn all you can, ready for 2025. Thanks, Phil. Let's go for a little bit of a wander as well, because we're so near to GT4, and that's not something we say very often when we talk about Phil Keane and Ian Loggy. But Jamie Day is here, second in the championship, Jamie, but a really, really good starting position for you in this one.
Yeah, exactly like you said, we're in a good place to start this race. It's a long one, 2 hours, so anything can happen. Main thing is just trying to stay out of trouble in this first stint, and then seeing where we end up at the pit stops, and then for me to jump in and try and do a good job to the end.
Make it sound so simple. Best of luck. Let's go for one more little walk there. Good luck there, Jamie. Let's head a little bit further on, because a few more drivers to speak to if we can. Just keeping an eye out to see if we can grab hold of Seb Morris, who's somewhere around here. But if we go a little bit further on, just quickly mention Will Moore sitting in this beautiful Mustang. Will Moore is now a father. His partner gave birth to their daughter Beatrice just 3 days ago, and he's in the car ready to hit this one and maybe even take a victory. What a great way to celebrate. He says he's feeling a bit tired, as you'd expect, but he's very, very happy and very excited to get going here at Donington Park. And another man who's excited to get going, if we run a little bit further back, hopefully our signal from our camera goes as far back down the grid. Seb, championship-wise, you're fourth. I know. You're fourth in the championship, and we know how much you'd love to win in GT4, being a GT3 champion of the past.
Yeah, it's been a very good year, bar one, which was this race. So we're here for redemption this race. I think we lost 37.5 points that day. We were on pole, due to win and have a nice easy race. So it's going to be tough. I think we ideally need Warren and Orton to have some sort of problem. If they gain any more points on us this race, I think they'll win today in Pro-Am. That's what we're really aiming for. Overall is going to be extremely difficult, so we're aiming for Pro-Am. So we need to try and get some points back today and then try and do the same at Brands, and it's as simple as that.
But you're not that far back. I mean, what is the expectation? You've obviously got a game plan.
Yeah, we need to push forward. We're going to watch the Aston, and we're going to try and beat it.
We need to push forward as well because the grid's about to clear. Seb, I'll let you run away, and we'll wish Charles as well the very best luck in this one as we close that door for him and exit the grid. So now we're about to get going. It's all got very lively and very noisy here on the grid, Adders, and I suspect it's going to be the same as you head down to Redgate in just a couple of minutes' time.
Bryn, thank you. Who says men can't multitask? They can interview, they can walk, they can close doors even. As we get set then for the rolling start of this penultimate round of British GT for 2024. What a grid it is, stretching all the way back through Goddard's. A quick look at number 3 Mercedes there on the right of the screen as you look on the second row. Mike Price will start. That car was in the tyre barrier in the warm-up this morning. It wasn't too badly damaged, but they've worked really hard to get it absolutely au point for the race.
Yeah, the Greystone team are all hands on deck, data engineer, even team manager helping to get that fixed. There's a lot of bodywork damage, so mainly cosmetic. But yeah, Mike Price, last time he was sat in that car, it was in the barrier, wasn't it, at McLean? So his focus will be different. Dry conditions now, and that's what his driver, coach, and teammate Callum McLeod will be saying is, don't worry about that big crash you had earlier. It's a different track now, so just crack on. But yeah, there's a lot of sub-stories in that front end of the grid. Some championship runners and some not, who just won't care about getting in the way.
Let's have a look at the grid then. These are the start drivers. Rob Collard on pole position. The Meakin driver, Kevin Say, alongside ahead of Alex Martin and Mike Price on the second row of the grid. John Ferguson for Ram Racing in the BMW starts 5th ahead of Matt Topham. Then you've got the Italian Giacomo Petrobelli and Sean Balfe in the Duckham's-backed McLaren. Morgan Tilbrook comes 9th on the grid ahead of Mark Radcliffe. 11th is where you find Sasha Kakad ahead of Mark Smith. The American driver Carl Caver's BMW next from the redoubtable Richard Neary for Team ABBA Racing. Ian Loggy and Andrew Howard, who was in the gravel in the warm-up as well, will round out GT3. GT4 pole, Mikey Porter, and alongside the Aston Martin, the Ginetta of Aston Miller, ahead of Mark Warren and Jack Brown, who had a 2-place grid drop for entering the pit lane in a dangerous way yesterday. Will Moore next with his teammate Marco Signoretti alongside. Those two Mustangs together on the 11th row ahead of Charles Dawson and then Harry George. 2 more Mercedes ahead of Ravi Ramyeed's BMW, and Callum Davis with the Race Lab, rather, McLaren that stopped on track in the warm-up this morning. Ian Goff next with the return of the Porsche Cayman to the championship. Bal Sidhu for Zentech Motorsport ahead of Ed McDermott and the irrepressible Colin White in his Ginetta. Tim Docker next with the Lotus of Stephen Lake for company, ahead in turn of Ian Duggan's Lotus, and newcomer to British GT John Curry for Team Parker Racing. James Brackle in his Mercedes AMG will round out the grid. So it is a dry road pretty much. It might just be a little bit sketchy offline, but it's pretty much dry. The best conditions that we've had all day, and probably really for British GT drivers, the best they've had all weekend, in fairness, because yesterday was so damp and dismal at times. So these now proper dry track surface conditions. It's a 2-hour race, mandatory pit stops. They'll do one. Anything above that is either a penalty or a problem. And you look back from the Marco Signoretti Mustang as they get themselves now into that 2x2 Noah's Ark formation, coming down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Porsche and Aston at the back of GT3, Aston and Ginetta at the front of GT4, and the strength of the championship represented in all of these different manufacturers that are on the grid. But for the front row, Lamborghini versus Mercedes-AMG, Rob Collard versus Kevin Say, who's had 2 race wins this year. The Collards have had 1. They are about to make their way up through Goddard's. If you're in the top 3 in the previous race, you carry extra time in the pits. We'll worry about that when we get closer to the pit window. In GT4, the silver combinations carry extra time on top of that as well. The lights change. Now we go racing at Donington, and it's a good getaway by Rob Collard. Kevin Say on the outside line. Giacomo Petrobelli in 87. He's on his toes in the Aston on the inside. John Ferguson gets into Kevin Say. There's contact, and off the road goes Kevin Say. Off the road also goes Mark Smith. I fear that is in the McLaren. And have they all managed to scrabble through? And can Kevin Say dig himself out of the gravel? That is far from the ideal start. It was a little bit of contact, I fear, between the BMW of John Ferguson, the Mercedes-AMG of Kevin Say, and that car is still beached on the outside of Redgate.
Yeah, the slightest of touches as we see another touch between the 90 Optima car and the Fassetti 47. That was an interesting one to call. The inside was covered by the 90 car, but was he alongside enough to make it fair? Is that Aston Martin full of grass? I can see the marshals out the window running to Kevin Say's aid. Can they push him out? So hard to push these GT cars out of a gravel trap. The marshals try their best. They've got about 55 seconds until the cars are there. Peter Daly will be deciding, does this need to be a full course yellow or a safety car? Was it the slightest touch of Ferguson? Was it cold tyres for Kevin Say? I have to admit, I missed that part of it. I need a replay to see, but the cars are so loaded at that point, it would only take a little breath from Ferguson's front bumper to send Kevin Say off into the scenery. Petrobelli got squeezed, but he's had a mega opening lap.
And the car is still on the edge of the road. The marshals are leaving it, so I fear they've had the call from race control. If you can't get the car shifted, get back to post, and we might have to interrupt the race. But come what may, I fear that Kevin Say is about to drop a lap. We have the yellow flags out as they come across the line, but we haven't got a safety car. We haven't gone full course yellow. It's still covered by a yellow flag as they head now down towards Redgate. But even if that car does get out of the gravel, it's going to drop a lap, and that effectively takes it out of contention. Yeah,
they're going for a live snatch, as you can see there, so the drivers have to slow down. But the interesting part here is we go back to the replay. So look at Ferguson on the inside, gets past Martin, makes it 3 wide. Price tucks in behind. Is there contact on the front of that BMW? Kevin Say turns across the front. I would actually say Kevin Say has turned across the front of Ferguson there. I thought Ferguson was further back originally. Where does Kevin Say want Ferguson to go would be my argument if I was the Ram team. Charlie Fagg, team manager, first time of the weekend, young kid trying to do it. That's going to be difficult. I think Ferguson is innocent.
Okay, we'll see whether race control agree. We haven't yet had anything come up to say that's being investigated. The car is still being hoiked through the gravel. It's not been put onto the road. It's being taken through the gravel. It looks like it might even be out of the race, therefore. Yeah,
one point of interest I'd like to talk about is that all of these drivers are improving in Sector 1 where there's a yellow flag, but because they've only had one go at it at the race start, you're not allowed to improve your sector under a yellow flag, but they all have. But it's because they're first attack through it. How you're going to police that is going to be an interesting one as we see Mike Price bunching up everyone behind him. Petrobelli giving a little rub. Morgan Tilbrook, Mark Ratcliffe, then the other Aston Martin and Matt Topham there. Petrobelli now having to defend. That is the ebb and flow nature of Sector 3 at Donington. You go on the attack, but don't get the job done. You become attacked.
Right, so 2 laps are about to be done. Rob Collard leads. Alex Martin, his teammate, chasing after him. Kevin Say's car put back onto the tarmac, ready to rejoin, but it's 2 laps behind. In third is John Ferguson's BMW. There, look, he's going to be alongside Kevin Say, with whom there was contact earlier. That's Maxi Goetz, who will take over from Kevin Say, and he is decidedly nonplussed. Fourth is Mike Price there in the green Mercedes. Fifth behind him is Giacomo Petrobelli. Sixth is the orange-fronted McLaren, number 77. That's Morgan Tilbrook at the wheel. And this is a great battle for 4th place.
Yeah, the awkward timing of that, the 2 cars that collided, then seeing each other 2 laps later. It's like when you see your ex-girlfriend across the bar and you realise that you went for an uglier model, unfortunately. But Kevin Say, championship is on the back foot now. I think he's going to have to pit because he's had outside assistance. I don't think they'll allow him to continue. John Ferguson slowing to the inside. Can't see any visible damage, but why was that? I can't see any reason. No yellow flag, so that must be a problem with that car.
Okay, so is that a legacy of the contact? Is it something else? We'll try to find out. Kevin Say comes then now down towards the S's. So John Ferguson in strife as well. Yeah, that car clearly has a big problem because it's crawling its way down Starkey Straight. tumbling down the order as the leaders then come down now towards the Melbourne hairpin. It doesn't look like it's a puncture, but he's not going to get to the pit lane, is he? That BMW looks as though its race is run.
Yeah, given up completely. It's like it's in limp mode almost. Now Price on the deck from again Petrobelli. Can't do anything about it. Aston Martin speaking to the drivers. They struggle with traction, and this is all about traction in this final sector. Tilbrook looking racy. He hasn't got a championship to worry about. Alongside Petrobelli, there's now a drag race to turn one. Can Tilbrook send it all the way around the outside? They're trying to squeeze each other, jockey for position. You've got to break later. Morgan in the 77. He doesn't. Is he going for the cutback? I think Petrobelli has got it. Johnny Adam, Petrobelli's teammate, will be saying, we need to get past Price now, otherwise we're going to lose 3-4 spaces in the next few laps.
Although that is not a car that has to serve any extra time in the pits, whereas you've got, of course, the Collards with a further 5 seconds. Kevin Say, just to add to his woes, winner last time out, has 20 seconds to serve extra in the pits as the compensation for winning last time out. So even though the car's lost 2 laps, its travails aren't done. Now this battle is Giacomo Petrobelli in 87 Aston Martin, 77 behind is Morgan Tilbrook, and right now, because Petrobelli is having to defend, he can't really go after Mike Price. He needs their 27 Mark Radcliffe to get onto terms with the other McLaren, and that is John Ferguson walking back. I suspect the marshals may tell him to get behind the barrier here, but John Ferguson is a very grumpy man. Yeah,
it's a long walk back to the pits as well there, so he's going to get even grumpier. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Coming back to GT4, just one for Seti Aston at the front after that contact on lap 1. I think that would be put down as a racing incident. Mark Smith and the GT3 McLaren coming through. Good illustration of the difference between GT3 and 4th. Size difference seems obvious to maybe the viewer at home that's watching week in, week out. The other easy difference is the headlight spot. So in GT4 it's yellow, and GT3 it's white. As you see, the GT3 cars with the extra power and downforce able to sive through the GT4 cars, but we're going to see a lot of that this afternoon, and that is just a flavour of what's to come. The Optimum car looks okay. Can't even really see much visible damage on the side of it, currently splitting those 2 Mustangs.
Number 9, bear in mind, here is Mark Smith, who was in the gravel taking evasive action on the first corner, so he's trying to fight back after losing time early on. And within GT4 then, it's number 7 currently in the lead of the category, which is Mikey Porter. Aston Miller is second in the Ginetta. Marco Signoretti's Mustang in third. Collard to Martin, that gap is hovering around 0.6 of a second, and they're bouncing up the curve. Number 10, Matt Topham, then 7th at the start of the lap. You've also got Richard Neary on the back here. Look in the green Mercedes. There he is on the outside line. You discount Richard Neary at your peril. He is one of the hardest racers out there.
Yeah, he's got a clever tactic as well to let you know that he's a hard racer, because he smashes in your door when he's ready to come past you and somehow gets away with it. But he's always firm, sometimes not fair. He's calmed down a little bit in the last few years, but he's still very, very quick in that Mercedes team run by the family themselves. So really refreshing to see. He was fixing it himself when he threw it in the barriers on testing. As we finally see Petrobelli down the inside, flicking up a bit of debris, just going to rotate the car and go. Can Mike Price respond? The better plan there, Mike, would be to follow Petrobelli and try and escape this battle pack forming with 6-7 cars all at once.
Richard Neary all over the back of Matt Topham. Richard Neary's already gained 6 places in this race. Ian Loggie's gained 4, but Richard Neary's looking for a 7th position to be gained here as they come up over the line. You can see on the timing tower who else the movers have been. 4 places gained by Petrobelli, by Tilbrook, by Radcliffe. 6 for Neary. He's the big winner thus far, and Signoretti in his class, 5 places gained. Right, on board with Ian Loggie then. You're on board with the Porsche coming out of Redgate.
Let's just listen to the flat 6 sing. It'll be easy flat through the craners. Hold it to the right, chuck it to the left. Completely blind here. Car goes light a little as well. Drag it back to the left. Hard on the brakes, hold hairpin. Down 2 gears, off the brake. Patience, go. Track limit sensor here. So if you run too wide, you will ping it, and then you carry on your way under Starkeys. Back to the GT4 battle. The Optimum McLaren is struggling, isn't it? We saw it between the 2 Mustangs, but now it's just holding up the Mustang and the Ram Mercedes. We saw the sister GT3 car retire. Same livery, different manufacturers. Looks like they're going okay at the moment with the Harry George behind the wheel. This Mustang we saw last time out, Snetson, so fast in a straight line. Yeah. Big wobble as well from Meakin there, right on the apex of Craners where we're on board. Loggie in the Porsche. Interesting to see if that car gets better, but that doesn't look fast or nice to drive.
Shows how good the variety in GT4 is, doesn't it? Where you've got Aston Martin, Ginetta, Ford, McLaren, then you've got Mercedes running in 6th. Further back there's BMW and Lotus, and there down the pit lane comes Mark Warren. He was forced out wide, remember, on the first lap down at the old hairpin. and that is pretty significant within the GT4 element of the championship, because they are third in the championship, Will Orton and Mark Warren. There's damage, there's lots of grass in the front, which oddly they're not attacking. I would have thought it's coming because it was overheating, but it's a tyre that's the main concern.
Yeah, and just the body language of the mechanics didn't look like that was an easy fix. So yeah, I was surprised by the grass. I said at the time I thought it was going to overheat. Didn't seem to be like puffing smoke and steam, so maybe got away and it's just suspension damage. But I think the diffuser is actually in the right shot there between the two Sonax signs. Lost some bodywork on the rear as well. So they've been mega strong this year for SETI. Haven't really had any bad luck because they've been fast and doing a good job themselves. That's the first time I would say they've been unlucky, and it's at the end of the championship when you want to be finding your form and scoring big points. If you look at the Aston Martin against the Ginetta BOP-wise, it looks pretty even in a straight line. As we go back to the sister Fassetti, look at the bodywork damage. The sill has been destroyed there. Amazed how thin that is bodywork-wise. Obviously gone for weight over strength there. The old Colin Chapman, you can add lightness to make a race car fast, seems to be the principle on the bodywork on this new to this year Aston Martin Evo Vantage, being super fast but maybe a little fragile there in side-to-side contact with that McLaren Artura.
Looking number 17, the Ram Racing Mercedes, we're getting a report from trackside that the Ram BMW of John Ferguson sounded as though it had a gearbox problem when it was coming out of the old hairpin, and that may be why it's ground to a halt. So it could be a gearbox related issue, and that would kind of make sense given the suddenness with which it slowed and then had to pull off before even getting to the pit lane.
Yeah, and the team are reporting a drive shaft failure as well, and that's because of these curbs here. Look at those yellow and blue blocks as we see the Mustang trying to go in another rub on the other side of that Optimum McLaren there. So yeah, some drivetrain issue for sure. It's just coasted to an end, but the curbs here are brutal at the chicane. Turns 10 and 11. The quickest way is to cut them as much as possible, but they're metal, they're angular, they're horrible. I was here on the test day last week driving myself in the GT3 McLaren, and you could find easy time, but you were destroying the car. We had cars with cracked gearbox casings, suspension failure. So in a 2-hour race, you need to bide your time on when to use it, and maybe Ferguson didn't bide it in the first 5 minutes enough.
Right, game on now. Look for fourth place. Mike Price, having dropped behind Giacomo Petrobelli, is now under attack from Morgan Tilbrook. So the rebuilt Mercedes, after its crash this morning, Morgan Tilbrook, who's had bad luck in the past with this McLaren here, comes through Coppice, and this is a good little fight. And while they squabble, Petrobelli is getting away. Now, he's got 14 seconds to make up on those two Lamborghinis up the road, but between them, 9/10 of a second now. Collard just gapping slightly Alex Martin as nose to tail into the S's. Price versus Tilbrook, who looks like he's got the speed and the momentum. Yes, he has. He goes to the inside line, heading down towards the Melbourne hairpin. So that battle for fourth place continuing as we look at number 90 McLaren. That is the Jack Brown, Zach Meakin car going up towards McLean's. That's on a first warning for track limit offences, and this was the incident at the start of the race as the 47 Mark Warren Aston sent wide.
Yeah, I thought it was on the inside enough. Like, it was like the front left of this car in shot was on the door. I just think everyone could have given more space, as you called, David. 77, Tilbrook past Price.
Yeah, he's done it. He had a shot. He's done it. He's gone by down at the Melbourne hairpin. So Morgan Tilbrook up into fourth, and Mike Price is in danger of losing more ground because Matt Topham is in the queue. There is Richard Neary, still carving his way through the pack. Then you've got Sean Balfe behind. So Morgan Tilbrook, who in the space of one season went from spinning on the green flag lap for the first race to winning the last, really has come on a pace as a driver. In GT4, lead battle here, absolutely nose to tail. Mikey Porter just ahead of Aston Miller as they come now down into Goddard's. The Ginetta looking to try to get the run not only out of the corner, but therefore down towards Redgate to start the next lap. They're not quite nose to tail now, but it's only about a car's length, if that, between them, heading to the braking zone, but Miller not close enough to attack that.
No, and they've just been starting to size up that Aston Martin. Aston Miller got the right name to race against an Aston Martin, and he did, in fact, race in Aston Martin GT4 at Spa and European GT4, so he's got the knowledge of what the car in front feels like to drive. He can use that to his advantage, pick its weakness, the little chink in the armour, just to put that Aston Martin out wide and maybe get the Ginetta down the inside. You can see another Ginetta flashing the headlights. Colin White has obviously learned a new trick in his 900th season of racing and lights the headlight flash. We're now getting the first GT3s coming past these GT4s. First one for Collard. Good, no time lost whatsoever. Martin looks like it's going to be the other way on that Lotus, but then Collard is going to get held up definitely a little bit by White and maybe even the Porsche on exit.
And this is where Alex Martin could strike in this inter-Nissan battle to lead to the pit stops, because whoever leads into the Barwell pit box is in the pound seats, especially given that the Collard car has a longer pit stop to serve under the regulations because it was in the top 3 last time out at Snetterton. So Alex Martin now is not just fighting for the race lead, he's fighting, if you like, for a clearer pit stop for when that car comes in, if it's ahead.
Yeah, exactly, and it's going to be so tight in the pit lane and space between them. And the importance of pitting first is huge. I remember in 2010, I was doing British GT in a track speed Porsche. We had 3 cars in the team, so it was even more tense. And the pressure I'd put on my teammate Steve Tandy to come in first, it worked twice for us where we lucked in, pitted out the first out 3, and it gave us the race win. Actually, it was my deposit on my first house because he paid me a bonus in cash, which I'm sure I paid tax on back in the day. But it's so important, and it's just free time, less stress. The mechanics don't have to worry, and when they don't worry, they don't make as many mistakes. It's one of those snowball effects that can really happen so fast, and that's why Martin needs to get aggressive on the front foot, which is exactly what Sean Balfe is doing on the inside. Matt Topham backs out of it. Looked like from that long angle shot he was alongside enough to send it. Now he's on the attack to Mark Ratcliffe. There's still a lot going on. Richard Neary really is a man on the move. Every time we see him, he seems to have overtaken the car. Ratcliffe to the inside of Topham. Real
Contact,
lazy.
that turns Topham around, and into the back of it goes Carl Cavers. They're all going to sort themselves out, but Mark Ratcliffe is the one that's lost out there because they've all gone streaming past him, and the McLaren is sort of coasting as he's trying to get the car fired up again. So Richard Neary now is up into 6th place. You've got Ian Loggy now up into 8th, and Matt Topham is about to lose more ground. Sasha Kakad on the inside line in the Audi. Into Hollywood they go, but no, Topham around the outside hangs onto the place, and that was all a little bit scrappy at Goddard's, wasn't it?
Yeah, just awkward, and we go on board with Loggy. You're going to get a view of them coming to a slow Cavers into the back of Ratcliffe because he had nowhere to go. Loggy reads it well, doesn't he? 3 places for the price of 1 there. I was a little critical of Sean Balfe backing out with the first move into the Melbourne hairpin. Mark Ratcliffe tried to back out, but too late, and just wanted to become invisible, which is quite hard to do in a modern GT3 car, and he was definitely at fault. Topham could have given him more space, but I don't think needed to. I also worry the amount of damage on the front of that Optimum GT3 McLaren that the bonnet is going to struggle to stay with the car. The air's going to get under the front of it where it's lifted up, and I think the catches are going to struggle as we see Petrobelli diving to the inside. These GT4 cars are quick, aren't they? You can see struggling to get it done on the brakes on that Lotus Emira from Meakin Racing. Back to the race lead in GT4. The gap has grown slightly, hasn't it?
It has. I'm just going to offer you the fact that Petrobelli doesn't have any extra time to serve in the pits. He's not going to necessarily get to within 5 seconds of the Collards, but Johnny Adam must be at least thinking that a podium could be on the cards here, and you never know in the second part of the race where a safety car to come out what that could do. So they're 16 seconds away from the race lead. The danger is that Petrobelli, with still another at least 43 minutes of his stint to go, loses more time. So those 2 Barwell-run Lamborghinis really are in the pound seats at the minute. They've got a big gap already and are continuing to stretch that with all the other GT3 teams squabbling behind. So you're looking at GT4. As Joe rightly said, that lead gap had stretched a bit, only to 0.6 of a second though between Mikey Porter and Aston Miller. Marco Signoretti is 3rd in number 61 Mustang. 62 you were looking at there is Will Moore, just ahead of Harry George, and the BMW that had a win at Snetterton, Ravi Ramid, who bounced back there after a crash at Spa to take honours in race 1. Now, they're the overall race leaders. There's not much to choose between them. And Collard gets up the inside of the impressive Charles Dawson. Alex Martin in the second of the Lamborghinis tries to find a way through the traffic, but he's not really been able to clear and get onto the tail of Collard here. But now Rob's got a bigger task, and that is a whole phalanx of cars ahead of him.
Yeah, it's going to be real messy start to this lap as we see one of the Meakin Lotuses coming out the pit. Must have been a problem. It's way too early to be a normal stop. Collard's going to get 2 of them done as we see Price with Neary behind. Balfe late on the brakes. Has the Lotus seen him? He has. He's done very, very well there, to be fair, because that was a late move from Balfe. I was a little worried that Stephen Lake wouldn't have seen them. Legitimately would have had to turn in because he Loggy on the flashers to Neary to the outside. Is that going to get the move done, or is that going to let Sean Balfe get a run on Neary? Huge slide out of there. Balfe will now be on the attack. Does he want to overtake Neary, or does he want to let Neary be the snowplow on Price? I think he's answered that question for me of how he's darting around, but again, just backs out of it a little bit. They're Silver Am champions already, but I want to see more from Sean Balfe. You're faster than this, be more aggressive and send it, and that will give Adam Smalley, when you hand over, a better chance of an overall podium.
And then behind them is Ian Loggy, whose last lap wasn't as quick as these ahead, but you could put that down to traffic maybe. On the lights is Loggy in the white Porsche. There goes through up on the inside. So Ian Logie, perhaps in the drive, feeling a bit happier with his car. It's chipping away, it's getting up the order. Yes, he was helped a little bit by that Schmozzle, and that's the damage McLaren and Mark Radcliffe that was involved in that same incident. And this looks like a long stop, and for what looked like a relatively light tap, you can see the damage that's been done to the front of that car.
Yeah, and I think I just heard one of the mechanics shout rat. I think that's done as we see Neary gets the move done on Price, and Balfour's gone as well. So
yeah,
that's been a really interesting first sector. Doesn't look like there's any GT4 traffic. Let's see what's happened. They're both fighting to try and overtake each other around McLean's, and Sean Balfour goes, "Oh, shut up, Joe. Why are you telling me to be more aggressive? I'll just overtake him when they're not looking." And he's scarpered away from Mike Price. Now Logie is on the back there, and he definitely looks happier. I agree with your statement there. To the inside, bit of a late lunge. Is he going to catch Price? That car started 4th place and is now fell all the way to 7th place. Price needs to stop the rock.
In the traffic, Rob Collard has stretched the gap to now 2.2 seconds over Alex Martin, and that's a big gain to have found in the space of a lap, because they were only about 6/10 apart through the traffic. All of a sudden, that gap has really stretched between them. In 3rd place is Petrobelli, Tilbrook is 4th, 5th is Balfe, 6th is Neary. Matt Topham's Aston has just come into the pit lane. That was also involved in that skirmish at Goddard's and has dropped down the order. And Mike Price, after a good qualifying, is about to lose another place there to the charging Ian Logie. He's raced Porsches in one make series, but not in British GT before, as he comes now down towards the right-hander of the old hairpin. You can see up the road there's traffic. That's Matt Topham making his way down the pit lane. Frustration after good early pace.
Yeah, I'm trying to wonder why he pitted, to be honest. I know this car hit him, but it almost looks like he's driven straight through. So unless the team have just ripped a bit of bodywork off and sent him, bit of an odd one there. Logie now getting more desperate, isn't he? Looks to the inside. Price did cover it a little bit, so he could get a run out of it, keeping it tight all the way around. This long right-hander of Coppes onto the back straight gives us a good chance. I think Logie just dropped to rear left on the grass there and just lost a little bit of traction. That gives Sasha Kaket a chance looking to the inside into the chicane. I chuckled to myself because that's not a normal overtaking spot, but he looked like he was committing to it. Andrew Howard in the Beach Dean Aston, been missing for a couple of rounds with work commitments. Good to have him back in, former champion. We know how fast he can be. Price running wide, Logie gets it done. Engine in the wrong place, but he can get the drive out the corner done.
For your final track limit warning in this 2-hour race.
In the background, Ravi Ramyi is being warned about track limit offences. You see Sasha Kakat dive up the inside, oh so nearly wipe out Ian Logie. He's run deep out of the corner. That gives Mike Price the place back. And then Colt Cavers in 22 BMW comes up on the outside line as well. So Sasha Kakad, oh so close to disaster and losing ground, possibly coming into Redgate. Yes, the voice in the background was that of Peter Daly, the race director, telling the 71 BMW from GT4 Ravi Ramyi that now he's on a black and white driving standards flag for track limit offences, and after that there comes a penalty. So he needs to be careful. Talking of careful, how close to the edge was Sasha Kakad under braking there? Ian Logie may not realise quite how close contact was avoided.
It was millimetres, wasn't it? And I almost think Logie saw him at the last minute and took some steering out to make sure he didn't get spun around by the wild Kakad. I don't think that was controlled. Aston Miller trying to get a run down the inside of the Aston Martin. Can he get it done on the brakes? We saw yesterday how much that Ginetta was generating temperature-wise in the brakes, glowing away. They look better today, so maybe they've taken some blanking off. Miller really hustling it on. You can see the 11s laid down, even the traction control struggling to control the amount of torque coming out of that Chevy V8 in the Ginetta. Brilliant car, brilliant engine combination, and it looks like it's starting to keep tabs with the Aston easier lap after lap.
Matt Topham had a puncture. That's why he made the pit stop in number 10 Aston, news from the pits. So that ties that. So we now know what happened to Matt Topham. He's lost a whole heap of places. Mark Radcliffe's McLaren is still in the pit lane, incidentally. Yeah. And the Kevin Say Mercedes is still circulating. It is 30th, but 2 laps down, which was the time lost by being in the gravel. So it's a forlorn hope to really get anything out of today other than mileage.
Is being shown a black and white flag. Your final track limit warning in this 2-hour race.
32 now. Sasha Kakad being given a driving standards flag. That's your last warning, effectively. And you've also just seen in slow motion the danger of clipping the tyre stacks and what damage that can do. It only looks like a flick, but they're solid things, those tyre stacks.
Yeah, they're 200-300 kilos of weight just bolted to the floor, so the cars won't be able to drive through them like Charles Dawson tried there. And that's quite a fair bit of aerodynamic damage performance-wise as well. So that car, I reckon, is 3-4 tenths slower now, have a bit more understeer at high speed, not generating the downforce it would want. Let's have a look at the background here. We're seeing Tilbrook run off in the 77 car, just getting pushed off by the GT4 cars inadvertently, and there is the most expensive lawnmower in the world, 600,000 of Woking's finest, and it doesn't even do stripes.
So Morgan Tilbrook is bound for the pit lane to get rid of the grass. Side by side for the lead of GT4 though now. 7 is the erstwhile leader Mikey Porter, but 56 Ginetta of Aston Miller on the outside line. Wide in, tight out might be the plan. Who's got the grunt coming off the corner? It's still just the Aston Martin ahead. Heading up towards the line they come. They've been lapped, look, by the third place Aston Martin out of GT3 of Giacomo Petrobelli. Aston Miller is close as they get to Redgate, but he's still not quite able to make a dive.
Has a stop-go penalty for contact with car 10. Car 27 a stop-go penalty.
Stop-go penalty for Mark Radcliffe if the car rejoins the race. I rather fear it won't, but should it do, it's being given a stop-go for causing that incident at Goddard's, Mark Radcliffe's McLaren.
Yeah, another McLaren. Tilbrook, the lawnmower we saw is pitted just because everything would have been full of grass, so they've had to pit. So a lot of cars pitting out of strategy, obviously, because of issues. So it's actually starting to whittle down quite quickly. With that optimum drive-through, I'd be tempted as a team to get out, serve the drive-through today. Otherwise, Peter Daly might go, well, you didn't actually get a penalty, as we see 77, and I'll give it to you at Brands Hatch for the final round. So might be worth just trying to chuck the car together and get it back out.
Right, 77, look, has rejoined. That's Morgan Tilbrook, but he's still on that lead lap. So he needs a safety car, yes, but at least he's not a lap down. Great battle here. Mike Price, Sasha Kakad, and a rather bold Carl Cavers getting up the inside. Then Andrew Howard in number 97, Aston Martin, and Mark Smith from the gravel at turn 1 back onto the tail of this battle pack, comes down towards the S's, and Sasha Kakad thinks about a dive on Mike Price, who thinks about defending and thinks about getting through the traffic. It's oh so busy now. It's busy for the GT3 drivers, they're trying to have their race. It's busy for the GT4 drivers having their race and trying to not impede the GT3 traffic. To the inside line there goes Ian Goff, up the inside of Charles Dawson. Bit of contact between the two, and they're still side by side.
It's more bangs than fireworks night at the moment, isn't it? We've got too many cars and too little track, which is a combination we all want. Price just trying to get past these GT4s, and now Kakad down the inside of Goff, who gives him a little bit of a rub as well. I am worried that Kakad keeps trying to overtake into the chicane. I'm going to say now it's not an overtaking spot, so when he does hit someone off, I can say I was right, as we see Cavers to the inside of Kakad, gets the job done, but does he get it stopped? And I don't think he will. Kakad working that car hard, big set of 11s. Andrew Howard still just trying to navigate these two GT4 cars that are battling in their own world. Like you said, Smith gets past Howard. Smith has done a mega job to get back up here.
Indeed he has, and Kakad has managed to get himself then past Carl Cavers and secure the place. Out of all of this, Charles Dawson in 31, keeping Ian Goff at bay in the BMW. Now Smith tries to get past the traffic. Andrew Howard tries to go with him as well. So Mark Smith busy. That GT4 battle is for 7th in GT4 outright, where you've got Dawson squabbling with Goff, and it's a little bit interrupted by the GT3 traffic getting through right now. Lead gap then. Rob Collard has gone across the line. He's 3 seconds clear of Alex Martin. And remember, in GT3, the start driver has to do 1 hour and 2 minutes. So we've still got over 32 minutes of this first hour remaining. In other words, lots of laps still available. Through on the inside of the traffic, there goes Andrew Howard, and that is your race leader. Now, having cleared the back markers, you can see how good through the traffic Rob Collard has been. He has really managed to shake off the challenge of his teammate Alex Martin. Yeah,
this is the first lap they've had 0 traffic, and I don't think they'll get any for the rest of the lap potentially. So just going to keep an eye on the timing screen for you to see what their pace in clear air is like. There are more GT4s they're going to catch probably at the end of the lap or the start of the next though. So yeah, advantage Collard at the moment through that first round, as we see the GT4 Audi looks so similar to the GT3 one with Kakad in, but just that little bit slower, a little bit heavier. As we see Petrobelli, that's a fairly big gap, isn't it, from those two Barwell Lamborghinis. They are really in a class of their own at the moment. You are, again, correct with no penalty in the pit stop for this car, but at the moment, 16 seconds back, I think we've got a fight for 3rd place, and then a fight between the Barwell cars of who's going to win today.
So there, 87, with a little bit of damage where he's flicked the tyre stack. Giacomo Petrobelli having one of his better showings of the season. Giacomo knows Donington pretty well. He used to race in his country many moons ago in Formula Parma Audi. He had a spell in the Blancpain Endurance Series in its early days and has had a few years away from the sport, but he's come back. He's got a great co-driver in Johnny Adam. He's coming up to Goddard's. The lead gap 3.5 seconds, and through the traffic goes Petrobelli. He in turn is being chased by this man, Sean Balfe, whose last lap was slower, but Sean in turn comfortably ahead in his class.
Yeah, and just looking at the lap times of Collard and Martin, Collard did pull 4 tenths away again, and that was nearly a second faster than Petrobelli. So, like I said, those two Lamborghinis are absolutely flying here. Barwell loved this track, and the Lamborghini seems to too. Neary just behind Balfe, a little bit slower than Balfe's last lap, so that gap is growing. Can Neary find a little bit of a rhythm and get that car up? He's done a mega job, hasn't he? And it's still 9 places gained. Same for Loggy behind him. So these guys have really given their teammates, his son in this instance, Sam Neary, taken over from his dad Richard after 62 minutes. In 32 minutes time they will be pitting. There's Loggy, sorry, he's done a job. He's given Phil Keane a chance as well with his opening stint thus far.
Mike Price has just pitted as well. Now that is obviously too early to be the mandatory stop. And it's not a penalty as far as we know. There it is. So he had a moment and done some damage. The car looks like it's ready to be sent back out. So Mike Price, maybe another one, had to have some grass scooped out of the front for fear of overheating. Yeah,
it looked like it, didn't it? The mechanic sweeping it out of that bottom air vent as he's going to rejoin. Almost a lap down exactly as Collard was about to lap him. Cavers still navigating GT4 cars. It feels like they've multiplied. There should be only 18 of them out there, but every time we shot to it, it looks like there are more. Miller still on the back of the Aston Martin, still hasn't been able to do anything. I think Smith has got good pace here. If it wasn't for that avoiding action at turn 1, lap 1 with Kevin Say, I think he could have been well up there. I think it'd be interesting if there was a safety car. I think we could see a slightly different result with that number 9 Paddock Motorsport GT3 car. Cavers looking like he's struggling with traction in that big M4 GT3. Sasha Kakad looks like he's calmed down a little bit. At the moment, Harrod to the inside of the 90 McLaren. We did see it was under investigation for that contact, and it's still under investigation. Be interesting if they're going to make a call during the race or they want to see it after the race when they've got a bit more time and footage.
GT4 lead slightly affected here by having to get the GT3 traffic through. So for the moment, Aston Miller has to sort of give up the fight and just let the quicker cars go by. Then he can regroup and go after the number 7 Aston Martin just up the road in the hands of Mikey Porter, who is now being negotiated, look, by Carl Cavers. Mark Smith has negotiated the Ginetta, and you're right, Smith, after his gravelly moment earlier on, has worked wonders here. And in British GT terms, he's one of the relatively inexperienced drivers, but again, he's come a long way in a short space of time. So he has now lap number 7. It is game on once more between the two of them for 7 and 56 for Porter and for Miller. We understand Mike Price had a punctured tyre. That's why he had to come in. So again, number 3 rejoining and staying on the lead lap. GT4 battle still well and truly joined.
Yeah, it really is, and it's going to ebb and flow, I think, all the way through this stint. We've had a few punches already, and it's quite rare on this Pirelli, and very rare at Donington because of the smooth surface. I just think there's so much debris out there from the contact we've had with people. One of the Mustangs just leaving the pit lane too, and it was the 62 car of Will Moore. I know that because we're on board with the sister car, 61 of Signoretti on the brakes here. The brakes squealing away, floating discs. They just generate this awful ear-pitching noise. But as long as the car stops well, the driver wouldn't complain about that. Howard in the bigger GT3, Aston overtaking race leader GT4.
And there is third in GT4, number 61 Mustang. To make the point about those cars, they've had an extra 20 kilos of weight added for this race under the balance of performance, and that hurts on the Grand Prix loop. It's not so bad on the national circuit part of Donington, if you like, but on the Grand Prix loop, where you've got those 2 heavy braking zones of the Melbourne Hairpin and Goddard's, it really does hurt. And over 2 hours, the team are a little bit fearful of exactly how easy those cars are going to be to stop. But as we've seen, 62 has had to make an enforced stop because of an earlier problem. We'll try and unravel that as Aston Miller is still staring at the back of that pesky Aston Martin. That's your fight for third. Marco Signoretti ahead of Zach Meakin. So you've got Ford versus McLaren, 2 very different shapes, very different styles of GT4 car.
Yeah, and you can just see a witness mark on that McLaren, a little rub of the wheel from the Fassetti Aston of Warren earlier. So you're going on board, car looks loose, the driver's working the steering wheel super hard. I can see why this car isn't at the front end. It looks quite hard to drive, and the rear moving around won't give the driver confidence, Zach Meakin in this instance, to carry speed, and then you overslow the car, and that's just lap time. Got Smith on the attack here. Can he get past Cavers on the brakes? The BMW's got a lot of straight line performance, but tends to struggle out of the corner where we are right now. Can Smith do anything about it? Can he create a run into the other big stop of the lap, into the final corner? Looks to the inside. Can he get down enough? Is it going to be a Ratcliffe, or is it going to be clean? It looked clean. It forced Cavers a little wider, but it then gets a good exit. This needs a little bit more work, I think, Smith. You're looking a little too often. Save it up as we see Price on the grass. This time, just maybe, is that a cold tire that the Greystone have had to put on for that puncher that's caught him out? Some strange wheel spin. That's exactly where he went off in warm-up.
Indeed so, coming through Schwantz curve. And it's not quite a carbon copy because the moment started earlier, like he was wrong coming out of the old hairpin, put him across the road and he's on the grass, and a big spin coming through Schwantz curve. That could have been a whole lot worse. So Mike Price is not having the best of days, but at least this time didn't make contact with anything solid, mercifully. This is the battle for 8th place. Carl Cavers versus Mark Smith. Carl Cavers has over the course of the year, settled into this GT3 machine, up from GT4 last year, feeling a bit more comfortable in that car, and now comes towards Coppice Corner.
Yeah, actually a fair amount of damage on the front end, where he obviously got caught up in the incident between Topham and Radcliffe. Car still feeling all right as we go back to this GT4 lead battle. Tilbrook working his way through. Miller doing a good job to make sure he's opening up. Miller's been hustling this car. Every time we see it, it's laying down some rubber. Needs to be a little bit careful we don't overwork the tyre. The tyre's almost designed exactly for a 1 hour stint. So if you overwork it by a few percent, it suddenly falls off too quickly towards the end of the hour. GT4s can pick, as we see the Breckel Mercedes really in the way there, and some bodywork hanging down. Is that a problem, or is it going to be able to keep going like that? That's right on the cusp of getting the mechanical flag for being too much bodywork that's potentially going to fall off.
Yes, in touring car racing these days, it's very tightly policed. Any flapping bodywork, black and orange, and that certainly would earn that in a different championship. Right, through GT4 traffic to lap go the race leaders. We've got an hour and 24 minutes of the race to go. James Breckel, despite the damage, gets back up on the inside of Tim Docker in the Audi and goes through. There's your GT4 leader going by then. It is still Mikey Porter ahead of 56 Ginetta of Aston Miller in the background, 61 and 90. The others, I reckon they're closing. I know the traffic kind of makes it look a little bit of a strange situation, but net, Marco Signoretti there, he's getting nearer, is he not, to Aston Miller. That last lap by the Mustang was a 36.4 against a 38.1, so a big gain on the last lap. And now that Signoretti has managed to stack Zach Meakin in the traffic for the next couple of corners, he can concentrate on what's ahead, not what's behind. So that Mustang, well worth watching. Yeah,
it's really going, looking after its tyres, maybe that little bit better. I said the front two maybe have pushed too hard too early and burnt those tyres up. Pressure's come up. Hottest session we've had all weekend is this race, so some of the teams maybe not got the data they would want going on board with the Mustang. That gap, 1.5 seconds last lap, it fell down. Driver's able to cut the inside now. The bollard's gone at Coppice. Little loose on exit, but not as loose as that McLaren. Not even able to use the exit curve there in the Mustang. Interesting, normally the drivers are forced all the way up to the exit, onto the grass, try and carry the speed, hard on the brakes, through the chicane. Big tyre stack left, big tyre stack right. The balance looking good, just edging in. And as a driver, once you start to get a flow and a rhythm, it suddenly all starts to get better and better as we see that Price car now really out of the running. After starting fourth, the best qualifying of the year, is really unravelled, and that's the price you pay.
And it's dropped a lap now after another off on top of that pit stop. And smoke as well as the car sits down going through Schwantz curve. In the meanwhile, they're going through is number 8, Richard Neary, making the run now towards the right-hander of Coppice, and Neary in turn is on the back of Sean Balfe. So this is for 4th and 5th, and remember that Neary, 5th, started 14th on the grid.
Yeah, and the front end still looks clean, so kudos to you, Richard Neary. Interesting, it was this battle with these three cars that let Balfe get in front of Neary when he was trying to get past Price. Is Price going to get out of the way? He technically should, because he's laps down, but does he feel like he has to? Sean Balfe looking to the inside, getting it stopped. Mike Price getting out of the way because Sean Balfe made him. Good driving by Sean Balfe there to just get it done. But Neary is all over the back of him to the inside. Balfe sweeps out. He's not going to buy that dummy, I don't think, just yet. Neary trying to rotate the car, get on the throttle earlier, build the speed quicker than the car in front. It's the easiest overtake you can do, but very difficult because the car in front can just ever so slightly block you and impede that momentum you're trying to build. Big late lunge from Neary to the inside. He's just about got a nose in front. Balfe kind of probably looked in his mirror and went, no, I'm okay, thank you. Just opened up the steering, gave him just enough space to carry on. I think with 20 minutes plus remaining of this stint, this is going to go on a long way, and almost Sean Balfe may be advised to let Neary go and chase him towards the end of the stint.
So those two still running together. They're both in the silver am element of the GT3 class, don't forget. So it's a proper fight, not only overall, but for category points as well, even though champion already crowned there are Balfe and co-driver Adam Smalley, but they're in the same subclass within the GT3 part of the race. Over the curve they bounce. This currently lap 26 for the GT3 leaders, and number 20 is now under investigation for possibly speeding in the pit lane. Ian Duggan's Lotus that made an enforced stop a little while ago. There is Neary then, flicks through the S's. In the background, Ed McDermott's GT4 Aston Martin. So 21 minutes to take you to the hour, and then a couple of minutes after that the GT3 cars can pit. 2 minutes before the hour, GT4 can pit, and Sam Neary, watching his dad have a real go against Sean Balfe. Let's hear his thoughts. It's Sean Balfe still ahead, Richard Neary on his tail, and Sam Neary with Bryn.
Sam, earlier on I spoke to your dad and said, what can you do realistically? He said, win, and I laughed.
Yeah, I saw that. You're laughing, and yeah, no, he's really proved that the car's pace, and he's doing really well, so it's a great stint from him.
We know what you two can do around here, and normally you like changeable conditions, but it's going well.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously we thought it was going to be a bit of a damp race, but no, it's full dry, and Rich is showing that you can overtake almost anywhere. So we're going for that silver am win, and now need to try for the overall as well.
He's just got the lead in silver am.
Pardon?
He's just got the lead in silver.
Mega, yeah. I'm trying to watch it in the corner of my eye at the same time, so no, we have nothing to lose, and obviously Sean does have an overall championship to lose, so we're going to be trying for the overall and see what we can do.
I'll tell you, we'll let you watch the replay in a minute. Thanks very much, Sam. Well done.
Thank you, mate.
So good move by Richard Neary to go through to take the place down at Redgate. And Joe, this is how he did it.
Yeah, he roughed him up a bit at the corner previous. She goes to the outside, then cuts back to the inside, gets it sent. Sean tries to cover too late, gets it stopped. Sean Balfe goes, that's not very kind, and just rubs him up slightly less aggressively than I said Richard did to him. So always fair in love and wars. We see Martin second place overall, Aston Miller now in the lead. So we've missed that, and by quite some margin. Was that traffic induced with GT3? Because the pace had looked so even for the opening 40 minutes.
There was a little bit of contact between Neary and Balfe at Goddard's. I wonder whether that triggered all of that. This, in the meantime, is under braking very late on the brakes. Aston Miller down at the Melbourne hairpin. That's been in the post for something like 27 laps, and he's finally done it. And now, having taken over the lead of GT4, he's trying to stretch that margin. But yes, just going back to the Neary-Balfe battle, you talked about Sean Balfe just glancing the back of the Mercedes at Redgate. There had been contact coming into Goddard's. Now, whether that was enough to unsettle Sean Balfe to make that move possible, discuss. But maybe Sean felt, you've done it to me, I'll do it to you.
Yeah, you can see the damage on the front of the Neary car. I don't think it was enough to unsettle the car physically, more unsettle Sean Balfe mentally to go, I know Richard Neary's aggressive because he's just hit me, and it can just be enough to slightly unnerve you, not use the full width of the track on the exit, and then not carry the speed. And I think that was more of the case in that instance. That Signoretti car's lost a little bit of pace. It isn't catching Porter in front like he was at the rate of knots, and actually now Meakin looks like he's going to get down the inside. It's going to be a proper drag race, and one of those cars is really designed for that aspect of racing, and it looks like the Mustang clears free, gets back in front, and enough to just cover the inside into the last corner, trying to go for a cutback again, Meakin. But the problem is there, it gives you the outside into turn one, and the bigger problem is that Mustang has got so much power.
And now it can really stretch its legs. Look, that McLaren getting smaller and smaller and smaller as you look out of the back of the Mustang. And then Marco Signoretti throws out the anchor as he comes down towards Redgate, and the gap is narrowed once more as they now head towards the top of the Craner curves yet again. Lead gap, by the way, is up to 7.7 seconds. That would clear the 5-second deficit in the pit lane for the Collards and let them keep that advantage. GT4, though, is where the real drama is for honours, and right now it's the third-place battle in the class that we're looking at. So, Signoretti just ahead there of Zach Meakin, and they're on the run now up into the left of Schrott's curve.
Yeah, it's so frustrating as a driver, Zach Meakin in this instance, when the car in front is just so much quicker in a straight line and so much slower in the corners. But that's the beauty of BOP. These manufacturers, when they design the car, they understand where they want the car to be in the BOP window, and there's nothing better as a driver to have the one fastest in a straight line, easiest lap time, easiest place to overtake. And I think Multimatic in partnership with Ford have done a mega job on this new to this year Mustang GT4 car. We see the GT3 being fast, and I know Academy are trying to bring it to British GT. You can see Meakin gets the run, but then what does he do? He can't do anything. And Signoretti just opens up the throttle and drives away from him, covers the inside. GT3 Aston looming behind as well of Petrobelli. So there is a chance that maybe Meakin can use that as the openers. We see a front left puncher for Martin. Won't be one of their mandatory pit stops either. No. This is going to lose them 45 to 50 seconds. This is going to really spice up the race and the championship.
Absolutely crucial moment this. Alex Martin down the pit lane. He'll have been on the radio. Barwell will be aware of the problem.
Is going to receive a black and white flag.
And as he comes now down the pit road, then Alex Martin can't take this as his mandatory pit stop because he hasn't done enough of the regulation drive time. So he's hemorrhaging places and will have to pit again. The car comes down the pit lane. Where that puncture actually happened, we don't fully know. But what you can at least say in Alex Martin's favour is if it happened late in the lap, he was fortunate, and he's done a good job of not adding to the amount of damage around that front left corner, because some people come back as quick as they can, bodywork flies, rubber flails, damage is done, and that car is going to drop in GT3 behind Ian Loggy, so it's going to be 6th in the category on the rejoin of the race, and Alex Martin now just has to sort of calm himself down, doesn't he, just do the best he can for the remainder of the stint, but that could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, his second sector was fine, so it happened in the third sector, so he was lucky, and like you said, he managed it well. But that, I think, is the 5th or 6th puncher we've had today, and it's just, I think it's the debris from the amount of contact we're seeing through the S's, cars hitting the tyres, the bodywork coming off. Carbon fibre is so sharp, it's razor sharp, and the tyre running over it is just enough to cut through the carcass. The curbs through the chicane, I don't think are sharp enough to be causing the punctures. You can get it where you strike a curb slightly wrong on the edge of the tyre, and the tyre wall gets like a blister and then a bubble and then burst. But I think this is all debris.
People go off the road. See debris there, someone's gone way wide and demolished the marker, but we had this at the touring car meeting a couple of weeks ago. People go off the road, they bring gravel onto the circuit, that causes other people to make mistakes, they go off the circuit, or they clip the tyre stacks and bring debris onto the road, and people run over that and go off the road, and it's just this never-ending cycle. You almost sort of need a hiatus in the race to do a bit of sweeping and then restart, don't you, if it gets really bad. I don't think we're at that level yet, but really that is the only place I can think of that people are picking up the damage to the tyre that is having this effect. Ian Loggy, in the meantime, then comes up towards the line now, 5th. So a place gained at the expense of Alex Martin. And you can see Ian Loggy there working his way through the traffic up on the inside, heading into Redgate Corner. I do like the look of that livery. I know it's a retro livery, but it works really nicely on the modern day 911. Now let's go to the pits, because Sandy Mitchell, whose co-driver has just had a puncture, can reflect on what's causing it all. He's with Bryn.
When it comes down to the championship, these are big moments, aren't they? Sandy, I came straight to you and you said puncture from the tyre stack.
Yeah, obviously everything happened pretty quick, and the guys have done really well to get us back out there as quick as possible. But yeah, just from the quick radio messages that I heard, it sounds like we glanced the left tyre stack in the chicane, which luckily doesn't seem to have caused too much damage. Obviously we'll see how that goes, but it seems to have just caused a puncture. So hopefully we can continue. We've got some great pace, as we've shown, to pull the gap, and yeah, we'll be charging back through.
Puts him back out in 6th, which means you've got a fair bit of work to do, though.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously it's not ideal with the sister car being so far ahead, so the safety car now would help us, but yeah, we've just got to focus on our race and do the best we can, and then yeah, see where we end up.
Could be better, could be worse. Thanks, Andy.
So there is the now well clear in the lead Lamborghini, Rob Collard at the wheel of it, and there is the glance of the tyre stack on the inside. So that's the front left corner hitting the tyre stack, but as it comes back into view, it's not gone pop at that point, but it might have just damaged it enough for the air to come out over the rest of the loop.
Yeah, unless he just caught that yellow curb that I was saying that shouldn't puncture the tyre, and that's punctured it. It was hard to see if that was the cause, or just being a little bit wider then off that. There's maybe a bit of debris, but it's handed it to this man here, hasn't it? He is 1/3 of a lap ahead of everyone. 26 seconds is his lead. So they will just be controlling him, saying this now, we can just start to relax. Not to a point where you're going slower and you go really deep into a corner and potentially throw that race win. But you need to be managing that better. The risk for looking for a 10th in that last corner is ridiculous. The risk I'm talking about is overtaking GT4s. You just need to bring it back a little bit, Rob. This is your race to lose now, and it just needs to calm. You can see bits of damage, like Martin's, from where they're rubbing the tyre walls. That's where you just need to start losing a 10th, but making sure you don't DNF.
So there's traffic up the road, but that was a slightly odd moment for Rob Collard coming into Goddard's that time. Now, in second place is that car, number 87. Look at the amount of real estate between them. It's about 1/3 of a lap, or if you prefer, 26.7 seconds, illustrating why it is the Collard's race to lose right now. Johnny Adam, who will take over that car in stint 2, is very quick, no question about it. But he can't work his magic, I don't think, to make up 27 seconds against Ricky Collard. So the Lamborghini from Barwell, number 63, that sort of works Lamborghini number, sitting pretty at the moment. Giacomo Petrobelli, though, having his best showing of the season. Even that car's picked up damage, as you can see, on the right front, and he's now wriggling his way through the GT4 traffic, gets past Stephen Lake's Lotus, and then in third from 14th on the grid is the charging Richard Neary. Now he's another 17.4 seconds back. So yeah, a second stint safety car would do the race quite a power of good. It would certainly change the fortunes of many as well. They're leading Silver Am, but it's been quite a drive, this, hasn't it, by Richard Neary? Yeah,
the grill showing its little war wounds there. It's like he's been in his local in Liverpool and disagreed with someone, but I think he'll get away with it from a penalty perspective.
I don't think in the Neary textbook that's damage, is it?
No, that's
just
a modification.
Cosmetic.
Yeah, it looks better. It won't do when he gets the invoice from Mercedes how much that front grille is, but yeah, the team may address that in terms of just pulling some of those parts off. My only problem there would be that those grille parts get ingested into its own engine bay and potentially cause some damage. So I think a lot of the teams are going to be busy with big plasters of tank tape to be able to patch these cars up for the remaining hour. Every car seems to have some bit of bodywork hanging off or missing, and I do think that is a main reason for all these punctures.
Interesting, isn't it, the way that Aston Miller, having taken over the lead of the class, has absolutely disappeared up the road. It took him, with respect, long enough to do it, but having done it, he has just checked out. And Mikey Porter in the Aston Martin falling away lap after lap after lap. There is the Ginetta then that comes over the line, the DTO car in the lead of the class, and in the background is number 7 Aston Martin, and that means now that it is 4.3 seconds between the two. Up into third as comes that Meakin at the expense of Signoretti, and Meakin has just done the car's best lap, number 90 McLaren. But right now, as I say, Aston Miller looking absolutely mighty.
Yeah, lucky Meakin has done that, because he's the only guy doing anything like Aston Miller's lap times. Everyone else has lost a second as the tyres dropped off. Yes, the fuel's burning off, but the tyre delta is bigger than fuel burn delta, typically in GT4. Miller's only 0.3 off his best lap on that last lap. Yes, Meakin is there, but everyone else 1 second too slow, and that gap is going to continue to grow. And I just worry that actually that's going to be the trend. Can this car buck the trend? Can Meakin gain in all the way in on Porter, and then when he hands over to Jack Brown, they should have started on pole. Brown's mistake in qualifying gave them the 2-place penalty. I think he'll be fired up and really quite aggressive on his stint, and that is the potential fight there between the 7 and the 90 car, I think, for the second half of this race.
So Zach Meakin then down to the S's. Remember, in the GT4 part of the race, there are extra times to be served in the pits if you are a all-silver graded driver lineup, and number 90 McLaren is one such, so that has a pit stop to come of 44 seconds. 39 seconds is the combined pit stop for number 7 Aston Martin, but only 24 seconds for the Ginetta. So it's still a tall order for number 90 to win, and just like the Collards are in the pound seats in GT3, so is 56 Ginetta. Aston Miller at the wheel of it for stint 1 in GT4.
Yeah, the other one to bring in there is the leader of Pro-Am here, Ravi Rammeed. He's done an absolute stellar job. His fastest lap is only 0.5 off the leaders in GT4. So I think they're going to be in the battle.
Ravi Rammeed, who many years ago raced a very different sort of BMW in the early 3 Series competition, which had a real boom about, 10, 12 years or so ago. And then lots of cars were damaged and they all died out, and the series waned a little bit. Then he had a few years away, came back in Ginettas, but the early 3 Series production cut was where he made his name, and he's got the recovering Mike Price Mercedes behind. Mike Price 13th overall. Ravi Ramid's BMW in GT4 is 19th overall. So it's not a battle for position, but Mike Price wants to get through the traffic as quickly as he can, recovering well after a difficult first stint.
And still has grass in his front grille as well every time he's been off, just collecting. But just to bang the drum a little bit more, Ravi Ramid, when I look at the data I've got here, his average lap time with this stint so far is only 0.3 slow, as we see Sasha Kakad stop through Starkey's just before McLean's. That looks like it's properly just off the track as he's
had a
spun
moment.
off. Wow, look at the witness marks. That would have been very similar to Mike Price's one we saw earlier.
He's taken the corner marker with him as well. That's the white polystyrene bollard destroyed, you can see on the side of the road. Now, if this car fires up, he's good to go. If it won't, and it needs retrieval from an external force, it might need a safety car intervention. This is not the time of the race for the Collards that they wanted a safety car, if they wanted one at all. We are about 6 minutes or so away from there. 8 minutes away from a GT3 pit stop. We are about 4 minutes away from a GT4 pit stop. It's a long way off the road, in fairness. But if anybody else goes off there, and we've seen other people go off there, it's not in the great place. So Peter Daly will make a call. Normally, Peter Daly, the race director, will give a driver about 30 seconds, 40 seconds to go through a kind of Control-Alt-Delete, let the car cool, try and restart it, get away again. And if after that it's not for moving, then he might have to intervene. And Barwell will be watching this as avidly as the race director.
Yeah, just throw a safety car, Peter. Come on, make it real interesting for this second half. I think you're right, it's got to be called soon. You can see where Tilbrook had been over the grass too and ruined Palmer's stripe. So it's definitely a flashpoint, and it typically happens when the GT3 car has to overtake a GT4 around the outside now, and they get squeezed onto the grass. Kakad has moved, but is he stuck now on the wet grass?
I think he probably
is. I think he's in an even worse place. That would be so scary as you see some debris. We've seen punches. That needs to have some help right away.
And he's away and moving, so Sasha Kakad absolutely spot off there, Joe. Well done. He's got it moving again, so the road is clear. There's a little bit of damage maybe on the front, possibly after glancing off that corner bollard, but the net result is the road is clear. It's a big sigh of relief in race control, and probably at Barwell, or at least half the Barwell garage, not the Sandy Mitchell half.
Yeah, it's completely different there. It's a shame for the race, but good job for this car in front. I just couldn't see Kakad getting out of there on the wet grass. You can mark the date down the first time I was ever wrong, today's date. So, yeah, it doesn't look like there's too much damage either to that car, so should be able to keep going, but obviously has now lost the lap, so not going to be many cars on the lead. And there is Meakin. We knew he was fast, but he's real Porter in an alarming rate of knots. Is he going to be able to do anything? Only 3 minutes until these cars can pit. I think that 7 car is going to pit very early to get onto a different set of tyres and maybe a different set of pressures on those tyres to maybe let that car be faster towards the end of the stint than Porter has had in this opening one.
Yeah, that Aston Martin certainly is fading as the stint goes on, and Zach Meakin getting faster and faster. Remember, that car is very much in the hunt as well for a championship, number 90 McLaren, because it is the GT4 leading car within the championship with just one more race to go after this. Splitting them briefly, number 22 BMW, Carl Cavers in 7th place. And he will now sort out the Aston Martin as they make that run down towards the S's. Right, the minimum time for a GT4 driver comes to an end in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So the pit lane's going to get busy fairly soon.
Yeah, I'd be probably pitting both of these drivers. The 7 car for the tyres, and I think that Brown has been quicker than Meakin. Meakin defending there from Smith and from Tilbrook. Bit of an odd one that, because he made it harder for them, which in turn has made it harder for himself. And he's still only got Smith past him. Tilbrook would want to come past too. Better job by Porter giving the racing line to Smith, then closing the door, obviously on Clutton's teammate Tilbrook there. Otherwise that would have then lost him more time. But yeah, the flow has been thick and fast, more debris being flicked up. I think all the pros watching and getting ready to get in are going to be looking for where this debris is and trying to avoid it, because the risk of punches is still, I think, through the roof.
Absolutely, and more debris seems to be proliferating around the circuit, not just the S's now. There's a little bit on the pit straight, bit at Redgate. Right, the other question mark in all of this is what is happening to number 7 Aston Martin? Why is it fading to the level that it is? Because it's now fallen away by over 4 seconds from the class leader, and remember, it did lead early on, and now is in danger, you can see, of losing 2nd place in the class to number 90 McLaren. So that pit stop, which is about a minute away, can't come soon enough, you get the feeling, for number 7 Aston, for the Forzetti Motorsport team, because there's clearly something they need to do in the pit stop to give that the pace again.
Yeah, the obvious one is tyre pressures, like I said. That really affects the whole car in every aspect. The other one, potentially here at Donington, is brakes. Very hard on brakes, this final sector we're approaching now. 3 big stops in under 40 seconds, so the brakes don't get a chance. So if they have got any brake cooling that they can open up, which I'd be surprised about, but maybe it's more just managing the brakes, bringing them back to life and seeing where they can go. Forzetti, top team, inheriting that from our racing. They've built on it. Actually a change of ownership coming as well to that team. So I think Forzetti is a team that's going to continue to grow, maybe even into GT3, but this year being so strong, but this moment in time not particularly strong in this stint.
Yeah, on the back foot, isn't it, that car? You can see the McLaren crawling all over the back of it. Giacomo Petrobelli gets up the inside to lap Zach Meakin. The pit window for the GT4 cars is open now, but it's too late given the track position for either of those two to jump across and come into the pit lane. In theory, if you are a silver combination, it doesn't really matter when you pit. It's not about driver pace, it's more about traffic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they could have just pitted, because where the pit entry line is a bit further down, and it would have been interesting to do a split strategy. You see it a lot in F1, don't you? You box to overtake, so you do the opposite. I'm surprised Optum maybe didn't do that there. Would have been tight, but I think possible, and I think they're both going to pit at the end of this lap. But the GT3s can pit now in the next 3.5 minutes, as we see some GT4s taking that pit window. They're going to stop, turn the engine off, driver out, door closed, fuel on. When the fuel is finished, car goes up, change the tyres. Team Parker getting to work, Charles Dawson out, Seb Morris helping out of the car. He's going to be trying to get that door closed as quickly as possible. Watch the fuel man going on once they're behind the line. 2 fuel hoses on the Mercedes there. One for the fuel and one to let the air out. Look at those brakes smoking away. The BMW there, just one big fuel pipe next to the fuel rig there. 200 litres of fuel. It can put 105 kilos of fuel in under 40 seconds.
And the GT3 cars have to keep on going. Their pit window, such as it is, not yet open. In other words, the start driver has not yet reached the minimum time to be done. Rob Collard through the traffic, and ahead of him is the GT4 leading Ginetta. So in the traffic there are battles going on. Rob Collard has got another couple of laps maybe before he gives way to Ricky, and that is Mark Smith, who has spun right in front of the leader. Coming out of the last corner, cars scatter each way. If you're committed to the pit lane, you're okay in a sense, because you're going slower and you've got a tighter line. If you're absolutely on it in a GT3 car, the road becomes very narrow, and Mark Smith, he's trying to turn the car around, but he's against the flow of the traffic. He's done it, he's got the car back in the right direction, and away he goes, lights up the rear tyres. There is much mopping of brow all round, but there was a serious laundry bill in that McLaren. That could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it was amazing. He was almost positioned. You know, when you go on a country lane, there's that awkward moss strip in the middle. He was there. It actually didn't matter if you're staying on track. What does he do? He gets hit by Tilbrook, doesn't he? Turned around. Look at the brake dust pouring out as it goes sideways. He did a mega job there to get that car round in a safe, relatively safe and efficient manner, I have to say. But
there are levels of safe.
Yeah, he would have had to turn the traction control off there as well on the McLaren. Not easy to do. You have to go to a different function. It's not on the traction control. He's done a mega job, but yeah, I think Tilbrook's going to get a penalty there. Collard is pushing on hard though, isn't he?
He is indeed, and that is being investigated after the race, that incident. Here it is from another angle. Bang. So from that, there is little argument. Morgan Tilbrook clips the back of Mark Smith, turns him around. Right, we've got another minute of this stint for Rob Collard. The GT4 drivers can now pit should they desire. So you can see on that timing graphic, pit, suggesting who is in the pit lane right now. So GT4, there the order is a shuffling right now. And is Aston Miller going to come in this way to give way to Freddie Tomlinson, the son of Lawrence Tomlinson, the Ginetta boss? The smart money would be on yes, but he's going to stay out.
Yeah, that's why you're not a racing driver, because you're
or a team manager.
Too smart for your own good. But I think Aston Miller needs to pit soon, because someone needs to buy him a plane ticket to Tokyo. The amount he's drifting that car, he's got great car control. Obviously, Ginetta Jr. teaches that from a young age, instills you that a car moving around underneath you is a fast car. But the car doesn't seem to be burning up its tyres, and I think that's why his pace is so good.
Although the other cars, of course, rejoining are on fresher tyres, but on a heavier fuel load, so they're not yet quite as quick, even though they're on the better rubber. That car getting lighter on the fuel. You can see there both number 90 McLaren and 7 Aston Martin in for some tape going on the front of 90. Morgan Tilbrook, who was aggressive on the previous lap, has now got himself onto the back of Carl Cavers. So Morgan Tilbrook who had to pit early on, don't forget, recovering, and the team manager of that car to race control. So it's gone from being looked at the end of the session to under investigation now to team manager to race control. And I fear a penalty looms there for 77 McLaren. He's gained a place from Carl Cavers, but it might be short-lived.
Yeah, that mega second shot we had of it, I think, put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
The first one was hard to see because it was out of shot, but you knew what happened, and the second shot painted the picture that we all knew about. So that will be a drive-through penalty, I think. Stonewall penalty. Loggy getting out the car, Phil Keane closing the door. Fuel on the front of that Porsche. There's a lot of space where an engine could be, so they put the fuel tank there to try and make the weight distribution better. 3 more cars and our race leader boxes.
Indeed. So now the GT3 drivers are coming in, including Rob Collard, race leader, driven a great stint, got to say. So down the pit road he comes. Young Ricky will take over from his dad, and 78 then, Alex Martin, still in the middle sector. So this actually gets around the stacking problem to a degree, because number 7 they would like to get rid of. There's been a place change there. Look, number 90 has moved ahead of number 7. 44 seconds to be served by number 90 McLaren, 39 to the Aston. So it was either a slow stop for number 7 Aston Martin, or the pit stop time wasn't done correctly for number 90 McLaren. I'm having a look at the data to make sure that it doesn't come up with an alert. I think it's okay. We'll double check. Right now, though, the Collards wish one another well. Well done, Dad. Good stint. Good luck, Ricky, for stint 2. And there, coming down the pit road now, is Sean Balfe to give way to Adam Smalley. And down the pit road comes Alex Martin. He will give way to Sandy Mitchell. Barwell positioning themselves at pit out as Phil Keane blasts down the pit lane. So he's taken over from Ian Loggy. And their 78 has arrived. So as the pit stop for number 63 is completed, the Porsche unlaps itself. And now we'll see whether or not the Collards are going to be able to hang on to that lead.
Interesting, you can see the second Lamborghini in shot there. They're using fuel churns. You can see that sort of yellow-coloured one. So they're obviously using 1 fuel rig, and then they'll need 4 of those dump churns, as the teams call them, to get the remaining fuel in. So a little bit more labour-intensive. Seb Morris now chasing down Aston Miller. The way the pit stop times are here is almost exactly a lap. So this battle, once Miller does pick, I think will look quite similar, with Tomlinson behind the wheel instead of Miller. Look at the debut even leaving. That's an exact opposite of what you want at the start of your stint on a nice set of fresh Pirellis, is to be running over debris before you've even hit the brakes for your first part of your 1-hour stint.
So there, Jack Brown, number 90 McLaren, GT4 Championship leader, accelerates downhill. Of course, there are GT4 pit stops still to cycle through, so we'll sort out the order once that has been done. There is Seb Morris, who's taken over the battered Mercedes AMG from Charles Dawson. Seb Morris, previous British GT champion. He's run the GT3 class, and as the GT3 order in this race continues to shuffle, we've now got Sandy Mitchell aboard 78, and he desperately wants a safety car in this second stint to throw him a lifeline, really, to get back into the mix. And you can see as the Neary's blast away. Now Sam at the wheel, Adam Smalley behind. They've maintained track position. Mercedes ahead of McLaren within the GT3 Silver Am fight. And away now goes number 78 in the background. So Sandy Mitchell, he's going to drop behind Phil Keane, is he not? Because there, the Porsche is ahead. So Sandy Mitchell has got quite a fight on his hands now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting for Phil. This will be the first race run he's done in the Porsche. In testing, just tend to work on the smaller lap runs, making sure the car balance is okay. To have the luxury of doing a full race run is very, very rare in testing, as we see the GT4 leader pitting. Tomlinson looking pumped up there to get Miller out the car. Finally, 56 minutes done from Miller. So those tyres probably stay a little bit fresher for Tomlinson. Maybe that's the strategy. Kevin Say pitting. That would have been a long, lonely stint, wouldn't it, after turning around him. I think turning himself around turn 1, lap 1. It'd be interesting to see if they keep that car going. Being 2 laps down, I can't see how they're going to score points today.
No, and nothing ever came of any investigation into that, as far as I'm aware. But of course, with number 15 BMW out of the race anyway, it's all of it fruitless anyway. Right, so it was number 10, Matt Topham, who'd taken over the race lead, but he has now pitted as well. So we'll drop down the order and give Ricky Collard the lead back. there you can see 56 that did lead in GT4, so Freddie Tomlinson gets on board. And yes, just to go back to Joe's point about Barwell, they've got one fuel rig, and so the other car has to be served by the fuel churns. And although the tyre crews are the same, there's a spread of other engineers across both cars, so it's kind of like a crew and a half for the two cars. 62, Will Moore into the pit lane. Through there goes Ian Logie. And at the end of this next lap, Ricky Collard should be confirmed as the race leader. You've got both Mustangs in the pits together now.
Yeah, and they've got an interesting fuel position, haven't they? We saw the Porsche right on the front, but look at those two silver rings on the back of the Mustang. The onboard shot we saw from the sister car, you could see they're using dump change. You've got to dump all of that in the rear of that car, and that would be a long process where I'm to run around, get it back in, and go. That's the 31 car. Is that over the overall lead now? I think we've got to wait another lap, haven't we, for the Ginetta to leave the pit lane to see where that goes. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly where they all pan out. These silver cars with the extra pit stop time, it really does hurt them in this pit window.
Yeah, Seb Morris has now done 40 laps, and 56 Ginetta has done 41. So next time around, we'll get a proper idea of where 31 Mercedes is in relation to Ginetta 56. But right now, 56 still holds sway. Like I say, we need another lap for them all to cycle through. Then we'll have a proper idea. Maxi Goetz accelerates away. But yeah, after a win last time out that actually they inherited because of other penalties, his head has rather dipped, I fear, going into this stint, because there's so little that car can achieve. It is still way down the order. It's really only the problems of others that's elevated the car anywhere near getting any more mileage and any more places out of this. Although, having said that, it's 12 overall, but that's largely a legacy of the pace it's got over GT4 machinery. In terms of a overall position, it needs lots of cars to have bad luck. So Ricky Collard, race leader.
Yeah, the only thing interesting, yes, he's leading races, is his, I don't know, strategy almost a little bit low here, because he hasn't beaten his dad's best lap time yet. He's the only GT3 car that hasn't. The best lap for that car was done on lap 5, so obviously his dad, everyone else is on lap 44. His last lap alone was 2 seconds slower than Smalley, who in the McLaren did the fastest lap of the race so far.
At 10 seconds, stop-go penalty for car 77. Contact with car 9 at T12.
Okay, Ricky Collard has just done the car's best lap. Back in your box, Osborne. And the voice you just heard is Peter Daly giving a stop-go penalty. That's the race director, giving a stop-go penalty to Morgan Tilbrook. Now Marcus Clutton at the wheel for the contact against number 9, which I think was a slam dunk, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, agreed. And glad it was done in session, not after. But yeah, I'll be back in my box. But why did it take him so long? I'll shout from my box with a couple of air holes. This car has done so well. I think that's leading overall just because of the job Ravi Rami did. Like I said, his stint average on the fly was only 0.3 a lap slower than the fastest of Aston Miller. And then when you get 24 seconds less in the pit stop, Charlie Robertson is going to look like a superhero, but that cape should be on the neck of Ravi Rami, because he has been an absolute machine here today.
But also it's a much shorter pit stop. They don't have to have the extra 24 seconds for being silvers. They don't have any compensation time. So yeah, it was a good stint by Rami. Robertson is very quick as well, but it was a much shorter pit stop anyway to buy them a whole heap of ground. Over the timing line then goes number 71, the new GT4 lead car, and we'll see for second in GT4 now. Should be 56 Ginetta, and up towards the timing line will come Freddie Tomlinson. He goes through with 17 seconds to make up. So that gives you an idea of how much that BMW gained on the pit stops.
Yeah, and do we think Tomlinson, like I said at Snetterton, former employer of Charlie Robertson, is going to be 17 seconds faster? I think not, unfortunately. No. And I think now this guy is going to be in his own battle as the pit stops now start to work themselves out. He's going to have Eric Evans behind him in a Mustang, Seb Morris in another Pro-Am car like Ravi Ramida Robinson, maybe Hopkinson, and then Jack Brown. Obviously serving that longer pit stop.
Car 8 is being shown a black and white flag. Car 8, final track limit warning in this 2-hour race.
That is Sam Neary, and the emphasis, and you've heard it before possibly from Peter Daly, reminding them it's a 2-hour race. You get the same number of warnings effectively as you would in a 1-hour race, and bear in mind, last warning in this 2-hour race there, he says to Sam Neary, in other words, you've still got 48 minutes to go, so just calm it down a little bit, because if you keep racking these transgressions up, there will be penalties, so remember the race duration.
why so salty, Peter? He's a racing driver. He wants to go fast. Just let him know he's broken the rules and let him crack on. But that will be a major concern, because you're always pushing the boundaries, but one little mistake from yourself, one GT4 car, maybe you running wide. I mean, he must have been millimetres away from the sensor there on the exit of McLean's. And that's the problem here. There's 3 track limit sensors that if you hit, there's a picture taken of your card. There is no arguing. It doesn't matter. It is hard, fast facts. And so I think that's going to be real interesting, because I think that's going to be it's got to be a penalty at some point. I can't see another, what have we got, probably another 28 laps to be done without one digression.
Right, there is another fighting GT4 where number 7, which is now the car of Jamie Day that led early on, with 29, Tom Wrigley right up behind. Now this in the GT4 battle now is quite a long way down. You've got these 2 cars running in 6th and 7th places as they come up towards the line. And over the line now, they also have to be negotiated by Sam Neary. So the Mercedes goes through, but then Aston Martin still struggling for the earlier paces there. Ricky Collard comes up onto the tail of 56, goes through. Right, Ricky on track, Rob in the pits with Bryn Lucas.
Well, Rob, the stint that you did there was exactly what you needed, and coupled with the problem that they had over the other side there with the puncture, it played right into your hands.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. The Lamborghini's driving brilliant today. It just had such great pace, and it looked after its tyres. We ran a different strategy to the second car, or the other car, sorry, and where we just went a different setup on Saturday, and it seems to work, and it's looked after its tyres very well, and my stint time then was brilliant all the way through. It was very unfortunate. I didn't know Alex had a puncture. That's gutting for him, really.
But looking at the lap times as well, I'm not sure if Ricky's beaten your lap time just yet. I'm just having a look, I'm not sure he has. I mean, you got yours very early doors, 5th lap or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I no doubt Ricky will definitely be faster than me. That's just a story as it is. I'm getting older. He's young and fast, and I'm old and slow. But today, I've done what we needed to do, and I'm super delighted. And hopefully, we don't get any safety cars now, which sort of erode Ricky's lead. So we haven't had the rub of the safety car in the past this season. We've been in the lead, and the safety cars come out. I'm just fingers crossed at the moment that we can just have a really clean race to the end, and yeah, we get good points.
You said 1st or 4th earlier. It's looking good for a 1st at the moment. Well done so far.
I don't know if we can win today. It'll be an absolute dream come true. So fingers crossed, and just hope that everything goes well.
Those fingers are crossed at Barwell and the Collard camp. Right, the team manager of Mustang number 61 is being summoned to race control. That's Eric Evans, who's now taken over from Marco Signoretti, and it's a pit stop infringement. I rather fear it may have been short on the time, and so also number 3, the Callum McLeod, Mike Price, Mercedes there as well, the team manager of the Greystone GT Mercedes being summoned to race control, and that's not normally with good news. So there is 61, which within GT4 is now 3rd, but it may not be have that pace for much longer, so it is a pit stop time issue.
Car 17 has been shown a black and white flag, your final track limit warning in this race.
17, Luca Hopkinson's taken over the Ram Racing Mercedes from Harry George. So yeah, pit stop times have to be adhered to. If you're short on the regulation pit stop time, a penalty comes, and that's 77. So, but Marcus Clatton didn't get many laps, did he? That car, remember, had clattered into number 9. Then it was given a stop-go penalty, and it's game over.
Yeah, as that toys out the pram, like if we can't win, well, previous winners here, and they won by a minute 2 years ago, so they can be dominant. And I think that's just a day of unravelling. We might as well park it at home and get home for tea sort of thing. So here's the leader, and going back to Rob's interview there with Bryn, saying he's not going to be as fast as son. His fastest lap at the moment is only 9/10 slower than Ricky's best. Yeah. To be less than a 10th off per corner, that really shows you the level that these AMs are operating at, and Rob has done a mega job. Back to 2nd place here with Johnny Adam, couple of corners behind, 13.7 seconds is that gap last time around.
It has come down as well. It was 14, it's come down a little bit. It's still a big mountain to climb for Johnny Adam, but his last lap was quicker, and it was a personal best. This is the car that's 3rd, Sam Neary, although he's got this Damocletian track limit hanging over him, in as much as if there's one more offence, then he's really up against it as far as race control are concerned. And then in 4th place, absolutely flying, is Adam Smalley there. Look in the background in the yellow-fronted McLaren. Adam Smalley with Sean Bell, won at Silverstone, first year in GT3 racing. In 5th, it's Phil Keane in the white
61
Porsche.
stop-go penalty for a short pit stop car. 61 pit stop time.
There is 61, so you've just seen it to the right. Eric Evans is going to have a stop-go for being short on the pit stop time. So there, number 10 is in 10th place. But Adam Smalley looking very impressive. We've been talking about Sam Neary and how well the Nearys are going in general, but Smalley is absolute dynamite at the minute.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race, big slide from 61. Frustration probably to the team there, that why did you make me pit too quickly and now I've got a penalty. But yeah, Smalley, fastest lap of the race, fastest average as well. Just looking at the data I've got here from timing 71, that he is 4/10 a lap quicker on average than Neary in front of him. The gap now between the two cars, 2.1 seconds, so maybe in the next 5 laps that gap can change. 2 C's cars with 2 different liveries and manufacturers. It'll be interesting to see what's going on here. Phil Keane in 5th place, pace is okay, very similar to the lead 4. It is really only Smalley that has a different pace in that Duckham's liveried McLaren from Garage 59. Maxi Gotts, then Sandy Mitchell there. The battle is between Mitchell and Keane. Gotts is really a blocker, isn't he? Is he a teammate blocker for Phil Keane in that Porsche, to just sort of rear gun for him? It'll be interesting to know what happens over the next few laps in that one.
Yeah, last lap, Sandy Mitchell a little bit slower than Phil Keane, but of course he's got, as you say, Maxi Gotts to get by. That 2C's Mercedes, and 2C's the same team that operates the white Porsche. So right now, Maxi Gotts protecting, although he comes up to have a look, thinking, well, look, I might be a bit quicker than you, let me by. Number 18, Mercedes then, after the dramas for Kevin Say early on in the race, now in 13th place overall. That's your GT4 leader, 15th overall. Charlie Robertson, and he's in fact, next time around, going to be 14th with the retirement of the number 77 McLaren and Marcus Klassen. And look at the gap that Charlie Robertson has. 21 seconds now clear. And it's all going wrong for the Academy Mustang team. 61's got a penalty and 62 has got a problem.
Yeah, looking underneath the car, is there some coolant coming out of the front? I can see, or is that just some of the tape, I think, actually marking out their pit box? But there's obviously been a problem reported from Matt Nicol-Jones, but not able to get straight to it, so that is going to be their day done as well. There is 2nd place. Think how long ago it was that we saw Charlie Robertson at the old hairpin. 20 seconds behind or so. Tomlinson now 20.9 in fact. So yeah, that gap is flowing out a little bit. Tomlinson here just needs to keep it going. Think about a podium being the best result. It would be obviously the win in silver, but most of these GT4 cars really are focusing on overall rather than class results. 61 there in shot. The other Mustangs going to have to come in. Luckily for them, they don't do their stop-go in their own box, otherwise it'd be impeded by the 62. There is a penalty area here at Donington at the end of pit lane, so they will go and serve their penalty there.
So 61 is set to drop further down. It's not just the pit stop time for a stop-go that hurts you, it's the drive time, isn't it? Coming in, going out of the pit lane. So Eric Evans, you get 3 passings of the timing line once the penalty is issued. He's got to make that call really this time or next to come in. Through goes Loggy, puts a lap on him, and Sandy Mitchell, who's always a joy to watch in the Lamborghini, trying to hustle his way through the traffic as well. And actually, although that 2C's situation is helping Phil Keane, it's also helping the Collards, isn't it? Because it's preventing currently Sandy Mitchell from gaining any places and therefore any further points.
Yeah, and the championship would go to Brands Hatch as it stands at the moment, but it would be heavily stacked in the Collards' favour, and they would only, well, they would be 8 points nearly from finishing it today. So that will show you they've got 30 points more than the sister car, and that is really a dominant lead. They would have that penalty they were talking about though, so it would be a penalty-free race potentially for Mitchell and Martin versus maximum penalty for Collard 1 and 2. Trying to wave the car away, but it just looks like it's not getting going yet. Normally the driver would leave it in gear, so all they have to do is get back on the throttle, but maybe that had gone back to neutral and selecting first gear. It wasn't so happy.
Yeah, that's 61 then, rejoining the race, Eric Evans from the pit lane penalty box. You saw the officials waving them away, saying, you're done, go, go, go. But if the car wasn't in gear and didn't have any drive, then it wasn't for shifting. It's got going now. Still, Sandy Mitchell, look, can't find a way through the 2C's battle. And we understand number 62 Mustang has a overheating gearbox after an off earlier on, so that's the problem for 62. 61 will drop back in the queue. They have a lack of luck at Academy Motorsports.
And car 7, you're being shown a black and white flag. Car 3 and 7, that's your final track limit warning in the race.
3 is Callum McLeod, 7 is Jamie Day out of the GT4 battle. Sandy Mitchell's getting a bit more, not ragged, that's the wrong word, but a bit more antsy in his quest to get through the traffic here.
Yeah, he tried to use the GT4 there, the 47 car as a move, but Maxi Götz just squeezed him over there to stop any momentum. I'm still trying to sort of decipher what Maxi Götz is doing here. He's so many laps down to his sister car in front of him. He's too close for comfort where he looks like he's trying to help, but then he's not attacking either, so he's kind of in this awkward no man's land. And I think they are just saying to him, probably just stay where you are, don't overtake the Porsche, but offer him some protection from the Lamborghini behind, because Mitchell looks fast and is starting to look like a raging bull bottled up in a nice Italian red, and I think he's going to probably send it in the next few laps, because he knows the longer he stays there, the more it overheats the front tyre when he's sat in the dirty air, and then that makes his case even harder to get the move done.
5 different brands in the top 5. You've got Lamborghini ahead of Aston Martin, ahead of Mercedes AMG, McLaren 4th, Porsche 5th, and the fastest lap of the race, McLaren. Adam Smalley in this stint has done the fastest lap of the race. So it shows not only the relative pace of cars, but teams operating them as well, and the variety up at the front. And yeah, okay, the Collards have the advantage for Lamborghini, but that gap is coming down. It was 14 seconds, it was 13 seconds, it's now 11. Johnny Adam is chipping away. Now, Ricky Collard only has to win by 1,000th of a second as long as he wins, but Johnny Adam is getting a little bit closer. Ricky perhaps driving within himself, not putting too much on the line. Joe talked early on about risk versus reward, and right now the gap is coming down. Yes, as here, look, over the line goes Phil Keane, Maxi Götz right behind him, and Götz pulls out to think about making a move to try to unlap himself. But those two are racing as though for position. You kind of wonder whether Phil Keane would be better advised to let the Mercedes go. Admittedly, that then puts him in jeopardy with the Lamborghini behind. But right now, it's a curious battle between the two 2Cs cars.
Yeah, I don't, like I said the lap ago, I don't get it. I don't think he can let Götz through and not have Mitchell then on the attack. I think that is too high risk. I think he's got a bit of luck there with the Meakin Lotus holding up Götz a little bit. Yeah, it's going to be, maybe the team need to get a little bit stricter with the team instructions here. Remember, Götz is all the way down in 13th place overall, 2 laps behind Phil Keane, so it almost has no need to be there. It'd almost be better to retire the car, save the mileage, go testing. As we see the 7 car in the gravel trap, is that on the exit of Redgate, just getting the car back in over Hollywood? Was that a mechanical issue or a driver issue? Obviously that car led so much earlier on, fell off at the end of that first stint, can't see any obvious damage. A bit of an odd one there, because if you do break a bit late as a driver, you're actually got the track width still to play with to stop going in the gravel, so I can't see any damage where he would have been left to sort of be pushed wide. So we need another look at that before I work out who to blame. A bit of smoke though coming from the rear. Is that some tyre rubbing potentially? All the tyres are still inflated, but just saw a hint of blue smoke coming out of the diffuser on that rear left.
And the race has 35 minutes still to go, and the lead gap is down from 11 to 9.9 seconds. Now, there's your replay.
Yeah, it looks like Andrew Howard's teammate Jessica Hawkins there maybe just got in the side of him, just the body language of the 2 cars. She was having to navigate 2 GT4s. I can't see any damage on the right side of it, so unless it was wheel to wheel, but yeah, I don't think that car went off by itself. Hard to blame exactly which driver it was, but I think the 7 didn't make a simple driver error in hindsight.
British GT has proved over the years, never ignore Johnny Adam. And here he is in 2nd place. That car didn't look all that sparkling in qualifying. It was 7th on the grid. Yeah, okay, it's had help with 1 or 2 people having troubles early on in the race. But Johnny Adam has been chipping away. Last time around, the gap was hovering around the 9-second mark, 9.7. It's gone up a bit this time to 10, but you've just seen him have to get through traffic. But certainly he is a lot closer to the Collards in this 2nd stint than Giacomo Petrobelli was in the 1st stint. And Ricky Collard continues to lead. He is now on lap number 57. And the last thing he wants, as you heard his dad say, is a safety car. But it would help Johnny Adam, no question. GT4, Charlie Robertson is still in the BMW ahead. 2nd is Freddie Tomlinson's Ginetta. 3rd is Seb Morris in his Mercedes AMG. 4th, Luca Hopkinson Mercedes. 5th is now Jack Brown. McLaren, and then 6th, number 29, BMW, Tom Wrigley at the wheel. But that is Johnny Adam. That is, if you like, Johnny in his natural habitat behind the wheel of an Aston Martin, Aston factory driver. We saw him last year in Mercedes, in which he starred. He's back in Aston's this year, and he's in 2nd place, 10 seconds adrift. Now, this, finally, as you can see, is the fight for 5th place. Finally, in as much as Sandy Mitchell has got himself ahead of Maxi Gurt and straight away onto the tail of Phil Keane. Porsche versus Lamborghini, and even if Sandy Mitchell can't win the race, he needs every place he can get, because he needs every point he can get for the championship.
Yeah, and I want to see if Mitchell overtook or did Gotts get out of the way finally. But yeah, Mitchell definitely looks like he's got some pace advantage, able to place the car right on the apex curb there of Coppice, going to allow him a shorter run through the corner, just closing on the back. The other interesting bit of Ricky Collard is Sandy Mitchell looks to the inside, more of a feint, that won't do anything to Phil Keane. But I do think that Ricky Collard has got a difficult couple of laps coming up with traffic. Phil Keane having to defend. Yes, he was overtaking the Ginetta, but the run from Mitchell was so strong round the outside. Surely not. Gets it stopped. Phil Keane on the apex. Great camera view there. Phil's just going to lean on him a little bit, but this is job done for Mitchell. He now has the inside into the last corner.
Brilliant move. Barwell Lamborghini goes up into 5th place. Barwell Motorsport heading for the team's championship if things stay as they are now. And up towards the timing line comes Sandy Mitchell then with that great move. Moves himself up alongside of them past the Porsche, and that is Alex Martin, who I think is suitably impressed with his co-driver, don't you think, after that? Has a look, smiles, shakes his head, and gets back onto his phone to say, we've gained another place, everybody. And not only that, Sandy Mitchell already just edging away by a lap or two as they plunge down through the Craner curves once more. Lead gap crept up again last time, up to 11 seconds. Is that pace of Collard or traffic? We'll keep monitoring it with 32 minutes just under of the race to go. Mitchell getting away now.
Yeah, the pace. I want to watch the next few laps to see what he can do. 17 seconds behind Smalley, so I think that is too much, but you might as well push on, Sandy, see what you can do. Someone might get a puncher, and being that little bit closer is what you need sometimes down the inside of the Breckle Mercedes there. Relatively easy. Great move, though, round the outside. It's such a hard move to do. Very fair from Phil Keane in the Porsche. Too fair. If I was in his car, I think I would have rolled off the brake and just eased him out a little bit wider and just maybe stop the traction of that Lamborghini being as easy. If you can just sometimes just unload the inside rear, it's enough just then to get the run back on them.
So there is the charging Sandy Mitchell then, and although on this lap the sector times are a little bit lower than they had been earlier on in the stint, let's see what he can do in terms of an overall position. He's coming up towards Goddard's now. The next target is Adam Smalley. He has gone across the line, and Sandy Mitchell has a very, very empty track ahead of him, which is never a great encouragement to a driver. He's got to make up 16.6 seconds, and he's 0.8 of a second a lap. I'm not sure he's going to gain another place without somebody ahead having a problem. What do you reckon?
I think you're right with that one, and I just think with Collard now, he just needs to knuckle down and put some sectors in, but hitting the tyre stacks like that is not the way to do it. Honestly, another inch more of that tyre stack on the right, that would almost be day done to the damage. There's a bit that sticks out that's relatively floppy, but it's still a conveyor belt material that is slapping the car doing 110 miles an hour through there. So we just need to be careful. I just think maybe the team have probably riled him up a little bit too much, saying how much Johnny Adams catching him, and it now reeks of desperation to me.
Let's have another look. There is Ricky Collard sliding over the curb.
So he's too wide off the first apex. That's the problem. And look at the whole front end bodywork go. You only get a few of those, and that is going to be day done. Might even just be a little bit of performance if you knock off a front dive plane, which is so crucial here at Donington for front aero grip. This is really going to go, and he won't believe it's still 30 minutes remaining of this race.
And the gap down to 9.5 seconds. Ricky Collard to Johnny Adam. Your starter for 10, Joe. What fascinating yet irrelevant touring car fact links Ricky Collard and Johnny Adam? What have they got in common?
I can stop you there. There's no fascinating touring car stat, so just hit me now.
They both had their one and only touring car win taken off them with a penalty. Never won another one.
Wow.
So there you go. Ricky Collard leads the way. Johnny Adam in second place. The gap down from 11 to 9.5 seconds. So Johnny Adam continues to charge, no question about it. Sandy Mitchell, in the meantime, his last lap was a 27.2. That was a much, much better lap compared to Adam Smalley. 1.3 seconds faster. Sandy Mitchell still has to make up 15.4 seconds. But all of a sudden, it's looking a little bit more likely, isn't it, that he might be able to make some progress?
I think so. As you see, Plowman now, after that eventful stint for his teammate Smith, obviously wide at turn 1 with the incident. The 90 car here of Jack Brown with that long pit stop has had a hard stint so far, a couple of seconds behind the Ram car of Hopkinson, who's right on the rear bumper of Morris. Their pace pretty similar. I have to say, this is the first time I've seen that Parker Mercedes not look dominant. Is it because it's missing half the front end, or the other Mercedes teams especially starting to get a little bit closer? Front end damage, one of those tank tape plasters I was alluding to earlier, trying to keep that McLaren stuck together for the remainder of this race. I think Brown is coming in a little bit. Their last lap times, he was 0.6 of a second faster. You see more debris being flicked up there in the front of that 90 car. Some wheel marks down the side of it. For a race that's only 2 hours, a lot of these cars look like they've done a whole sort of stint in Baghdad, don't they? They're all looking like they're very much wounded cars.
Indeed so, and those tyre stacks at the chicane always create drama and incident, although actually in this second stint had rather less drama than the first. It may not remain that way, let us see. As Collard to Adam is 9.1 seconds now. Johnny Adam doing exactly what he's required to do, chip away, do his level best to bring down that gap against the race leader. Then number 90 then, Jack Brown at the wheel of the McLaren, 18th place overall, and within GT4, 5th. And to subdivide that, 3rd in the silver class of GT4. Mercedes 31 is Seb Morris, 17 behind the Ram racing car, behind the Team Parker racing car. That is now Luca Hopkinson at the wheel. And you can see all the debris on the road at the S's. It's not just that the cars look dog-eared, it is that the road is just like a big litter bin. There, number 7, look, is the Mikey Day Aston whacking the tyre stack, and that then dislodges it, and more bits of car fly. That was the 61 Mustang with the inner of the wheel arch flying into the face virtually of Sandy Mitchell, who dodges around it. But just look in the bottom left and how dirty the racetrack is. There are still bits flying, and now a big chunk of debris in the middle of the road. Yeah, and the tyre stack moved, I think, like 30 centimetres when that number 7 Aston hit it. So all these drivers, suddenly the next lap, the tyre stack's even closer, more likely to hit it, because you just got into your rhythm as a driver. You've got your brake point, your turning point, your throttle point, and then suddenly the rules have just been changed because the tyre stack has moved, and it is really difficult to change that rhythm mid-race. Phil Keane running currently in 6th place. His co-driver there is the Porsche. Ian Loggy, he's with Bryn in the pits.
Well, Ian, looking on at the car and seeing what Phil's doing there, we know that it's not at the pace you hope it would be, but that's for next year.
Yeah, we're probably running 5/10 off, something like that at the moment. But yeah, this is all preparation for next year, and what we don't want to do is turn up here in the first round and be 5/10 off. So we're going to find the pace and the next race or the next few races over the winter, do a lot of testing, and then we'll just see how it goes.
We're on a full course yellow at the moment. We've seen quite a lot of debris out on track as well from quite a lot of incident. It seems that Donington Park throws these up a fair bit.
Yeah, well, we started 15th and got up to 5th in that stint, and that wasn't because of pace. That was just a matter of staying out of trouble. And there was a lot of contact, a lot of crashes, a lot of carbon fibre on the track. So for me, it was just make sure we survive and bring the car in a decent position. We're obviously under a bit of pressure. The Lambos, they could be 8/10 quicker than us, so we're just nowhere when it comes to the Lambos. But yeah, the guys here have done a great job over the weekend. It's been, I think, maybe 3-4 months since I've raced a Porsche GT3R. And they're a totally different car, rear engine rather than front engine. But yeah, looking forward to next year.
What made you decide to go for the complete opposite end of the engine then when it comes to the spectrum for GTs, and moving from the front engine, like you say, to the rear engine with the Porsche? Yeah,
I've always liked a Porsche. I ended up in a Mercedes in 2020. The car went well, I stuck with it, but I always knew at one stage that I wanted to race a Porsche, and when that car came to the market, it was too good to let go. So the intention was that we were going to race it in the Middle East during the winter. We never actually managed to do that. So after the last round, when we knew the championship was sort of out of our grips anyway, although technically we could still have won it, but we thought rather than keep our fingers crossed and hope for that, the best thing to do was prepare for next year.
So we'll see you at Brands Hatch in this, and maybe a bit of winter racing over in Asia, then back for next year for a title push.
Yeah, for sure.
Good luck.
Cheers. Many thanks.
So Ian Logie explains the plan. We are under full course yellow, as Bryn was saying. We have 56 Ginetta that has stopped on the Grand Prix loop, and that needs retrieval. There is Freddie Tomlinson, who's out of the car. He's okay, but the car, by the look of it, is at the bottom of the loop where the barrier is. Now, of course, one of the dramas of the Grand Prix loop is the heavy braking zones, and we're late into the race.
Yeah, and I've said it a couple of times, so sorry if I'm boring you, but that Ginetta was working its brakes.
No.
Thank you, appreciate it very much. Means a lot coming from you. But those brakes were getting so hot, we could see them glowing in the daylight, and I just wonder if that is almost not a brake failure, but the brakes get so hot it boils the fluid. Let's have a look. So we're going to see it pitch down. Does look at, I think the brake disc maybe explodes. Did you see from the driver's front right, it suddenly just opened up with a load of dust. Yes, there's dust normally, but that was like a component failure there, which I do worry is just getting so hot it said no. So just look at the left front as we look at it now. There's just a load of dust, and that's what it looks like when the disc explodes.
Something
and
fires out as well.
Yeah, a bit of metal, maybe the caliper's not happy. Great job catching what's happened, and the problem is that is a big stop. You're 125, 130 miles an hour down to 40. And if you're not slowing down, the tyre wall takes the impact. And luckily, there's a big gravel trap and a tyre wall, but that would have been a hefty hit. And it is amazing to see Freddie walk away, but the cars are built so strong, and that's the exact reason. And with this slowdown of pace, we're now seeing the weather front moving in. Is this going to be an extra bit of spice that we probably didn't need for a safety car restart, hopefully coming in the next 22 minutes?
Well, indeed, because weather is sort of next in the queue after we've analysed the fact that after a long full course yellow period, we'll have to go safety car. Why? Because the safety car is able to go at so-called motorway speeds, which are faster than the delta speed for a full course yellow. Therefore, if you throw the safety car, the cars can go quicker, they can get more warmth into tyres and brakes, it makes for a safer restart. Okay, they're bunched up, but the tyres are warmer, the brakes are warmer, ready to go racing once more. So, we're going to end up with a safety car period. What's that going to do? It's going to bunch everybody up. It's going to take Ricky Collard's lead away. Next thing we need to be looking at are how many back markers may be between the lead Lamborghini and the second place Aston Martin. But Joe is absolutely right. That weather could be rolling in. Now, it's a 2-hour race, whether you go green all the way or we have a safety car period. 2 hours are 2 hours. But it might well be, as we've seen the skies darkening, that rain is on the way. There is the leader, and 87 of Johnny Adam doing the chasing. I think he's got quite a bit of traffic to work his way through, personally.
Yeah, Johnny's car actually doesn't have the GPS tracker working, so I'm trying to work out how many GT4 cars are in between just by my naked eye. And I'm just trying to count, and I think it's somewhere between 4 and 5, which is exactly what Collard would want. So the time will come slowly, but remember, when they do a restart with GT4s in between, the GT3 leader typically backs them all up and then goes early to make those GT4 cars very much a rolling roadblock for Johnny Adam, who can't overtake before the line. That's the problem. Yeah. And I'm sure Barwell will be telling Ricky that's the strategy we need if we go to a safety car restart.
Remember Alton Park when he had a safety car restart and he dropped a long way back once the lights were out. When the lights are on the safety car, we've not got to the safety car yet, I'll grant you, but when they are, you've got to stay within a given distance of it. Once the safety car lights are out for the restart, it's up to you to control the pace, and there you'll see the drivers drop back quite a long way. So when they accelerate, they've got a long period of acceleration to try to get away from the traffic behind, which cannot be overtaken until he gets to the timing line. So there's traffic ahead of Ricky Collard, but when Peter Daly is in a position to get the race restarted, we'll go to safety car conditions, the traffic will move ahead, and those back markers that are behind him are going to be the unlucky ones trapped behind the leader. They could drop off their class lead lap, couldn't they?
Yeah, I just wonder if that Cayman here, the 16 car, isn't doing 80 kilometres an hour as its maximum speed, because they all seem to be bunching up. Relatively academic, because it's going to go to safety car anyway, but it can be very frustrating as a driver just not doing the maximum speed to keep the energy in the tyres and the brakes that bit easier. Even when you're doing 75, it feels like you're just going at a walking pace, like when there's that average speed.
You've gone that quickly.
once before by mistake. I pressed the wrong pedal and it was quite scary. But when you're doing that average speed bit on the M1 and there's one guy doing 48 miles an hour thinking he's the police officer doing everyone a good job, and you're like, well, we can do 10% over plus 2 miles an hour, so we should be doing 57. So you're trying to educate people by flashing your lights and gesticulating with a couple of fingers. But it just means that you're already thinking about something else. And I was wrong with my naked eye calculation. I need to get them tested. There's one GT4 car between our leader and our second place, Johnny Adam, here. Turned 40 this week. As you said, the joint most wins in British GT with Phil Keane. Can he change that? Can he get to 2020 vision?
Well, let's see, because right now, the second placed Aston Martin in the hands of Johnny Adam is edging closer to the back of number 63 Lamborghini. A safety car is certainly helping. Now, that car is third, but is under investigation for a pit stop infringement. Now, if it's not the time, which we are told it is not, could it be the number of people working on the car? Could it be starting the engine at the wrong time or having the engine running at the wrong time? So the pit stop for number 8 is being looked at. We'll get back to you when more news breaks on that. In fourth place is Adam Smalley's McLaren, and of course the safety car helps him as well, doesn't it? Because it stops him having to do the hard work. He'll be much, much closer on the restart to that Mercedes.
Yeah, definitely, and I think he would be happy with that. I think the second happiest man after Johnny Adam will be Sandy Mitchell, though, because that's going to really give him a chance of Smalley. Remember I said, what's the point in pushing on you 17 seconds behind? That 17 seconds would have evaporated somewhat. I think there's a couple of cars between them GT4-wise, but yeah, surprised at the Nearies, the Abba team, really well drilled. There's so many little quirks and rules in the pit stops. It's a bit like playing Simon Says. It's like, wow, look at the damage here. The tyre wall has done a mega job at dissipating that energy. You can see the bonnet of the Ginetta in the background, circuit staff inspecting it. My hope they can do there is get the tyres bailed back up and just fire a few bolts through the conveyor belt to kind of build it up. Yes, it needs to be safe, but I think they can do a pretty good fast job, hopefully in less than 17 minutes.
Well, that's the point again, isn't it? 17 minutes of the race remain, that's all, and we've got to get the race restarted. So there is number 8, the Nearies, and it's the number of people over the line working on the car that is being investigated. But tyre wall has to be rebuilt. Safety car conditions have to be adhered to. You've got to at least give people a chance to get in a line rather than having them scattered all around Donington before you go racing again, all of which eats into 17 minutes. Ergo, the gaps might come down, but there may not be that many racing laps in which the order can be changed.
Yeah, and the problem is we can't go to safety car too early because of those circuit staff there. As soon as you take the full course yellow off, the drivers can pretty much go at 98% of racing speed, so you cannot allow that. So they're going to have to stay under full course yellow pretty much until everything is finished repair-wise, and then they can go to safety car.
Giacomo Petrobelli did the first stint in the second placed Aston Martin. That car has a chance of winning the race. There is the car. Giacomo is with Bryn.
Well, Giacomo, we've seen Johnny Adam go around here quite a few times, pretty impressively, and he got the opportunity now to take the victory here.
Well, we're getting closer and closer, but the race is getting shorter and shorter, so I don't know how. Depends on how long the full course yellow is going to last for. We've got probably half a second a lap in terms of pace on the Lambo, but we're running out of laps.
Well, there's 15 minutes left of this race, as we know. It is, it's going to come down to time and how long you have left. But if you want anybody to win, Johnny Adam's the guy you want behind the wheel.
Absolutely, I've got full confidence. I think Johnny's been there, done it. Still got the speed. The car finally is in the window, so we're very happy with that. Let's see.
Qualifying, you started 7th. It was a pretty decent performance from you. I mean, a decent, it could be worse, could always be better, of course.
I made a little mistake, actually, on my good lap. I made 2 mistakes. One, I caught up in quali with Kevin, and I got sort of held up a little bit when he was going slower. Then he went really fast. And then on my last lap, I made a mistake. So I think we probably had pace for P2, P3, but we didn't quite get it all together, and that showed in the race.
Johnny's celebrating a significant birthday recently, got a brand new helmet as well. He just wants to show that off, I think.
I told him I'm obviously well past that milestone, but he's now a member of the sort of 40-something wiser, but hopefully no slower.
Update from race control. We've got a few more.
Slower. Look, best of luck out there.
Thanks.
So there is the Aston Martin, Giacomo Petrobelli, the London-based Italian, and his car, that's 97, that's the Andrew Howard, now Jessica Hawkins Aston. So just to reiterate what needs to happen before the race can restart, we have to have the safety car procedure next, and then once everybody is in a line,
and the race director is happy, he can get the race back underway. But all of that is eating into what now is 14 minutes. I can't see us having too many racing laps. Might be 1 or 2 at the end, but we are, sad to say, running out of time. And it's not been a cynical ploy to ruin anybody's race, this. If there's a car off and the tyre barrier is damaged, of course the race needs neutralising.
Yeah, and you can't obviously add time to a race. All the teams have their strategy. Yes, you're saving fuel under it, but it has to be a finite number, of course. We do have an interesting thing here. The 90 Optimum car, full course yellow procedure infringement. So all of the cars do have GPS trackers, so the race director can see when they slow down. Did they slow down within the parameter that is allowable? And I wonder if that is the most likely reason they're under investigation. Championship leading car, of course. So that's where the ramifications could be strong. Just trying to spot in the background how they're getting on with that barrier repair. Some marshals still going over to the scene. There's just nothing we can do to speed this up, unfortunately. So all the drivers will be pensive. It'd be amazing to be able to talk to them now, wouldn't it, of Ricky Collard. What would you like to happen now? There's 13 minutes remaining. I'm guessing you'd like this to finish under safety car or full course yellow, because you are handed a guaranteed win, whereas Johnny Adam, I think, would give all 4 of his limbs to get one racing lap to be able to attack and potentially get, and there is our safety car, which unfortunately has missed the race leader, but can go faster than 80 kilometres an hour to get in front and then start the procedure, hopefully.
Now, let's go back to the pit lane. Richard Neary is watching on, 3rd place, and he is with Bryn.
Well, Richard, we've got a potential penalty coming your way. You said you're not sure what it is that they're actually looking at.
No, we're not. Obviously, the first thing you check is your pit stop time, and we know we're safe with that. None of us know what it is. I went and asked the observers on the pit wall, and they don't know what it is. So at the moment, we're in limbo land. We don't know.
I've been told that maybe it's too many people over the line.
Okay, that'll be an issue for us to look on the camera, but can't see how, because we have 2 completely separate crews for fueling and for tyre change. So, okay, we'll look at that.
That aside, though, performance-wise, I mean, you and Sam have been looking very good out here, particularly you in your stint.
Yeah, it was a good stint, wasn't it? I was trying. There was nothing left. That was as fast as I could drive it.
I joked at the start when you said about finishing and winning, and I laughed. And you know, you're not far off.
No, I mean, in fairness, if we come 3rd, that's a win for us, because we can't beat the Lambos. So
get back and carry on watching. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks,
cheers.
Mate. Cheers.
So Richard Neary looks on, and the clock ticks down. 11.5 minutes, just under, remain. So yes, now the safety car needs to pick up the leader, and then once this tyre stack is put into place, we'll be a bit closer to going racing. I am not confident we're going to get more than a couple of laps, if that, now looking at this. But we'll see.
No, and hopefully for the drivers, that's the tyre stack at the chicane they've just nicked to put in. It obviously isn't. The circuits basically have pre-built tyre walls that they can then just slot into place to save time. In this instance, Rob looking pretty nervous, in all fairness. Probably more just trying to work out, are they going to go back to racing? The safety car now has picked up his son Ricky, so when they are ready, they are in place to get it going. So good job by race control there. Good illustration, actually, the Lotus Emira, their safety car, but also the GT4 variant popping into view. You can see the differences, subtle, aren't they? But that's how you make a road car into a fast race car.
And also an illustration of how you're able to use full course yellow and get everything teed up for that safety car period. So you scramble the safety car. It doesn't necessarily need to go out and get the leader, because it is going quicker than those cars anyway. So now to scoop them up. The lights will go on eventually when we get to safety car procedure, but we're not there yet. You can see that Johnny Adam is closing. Now, we are still under full course yellow, not safety car. So therefore, even though drivers might see the safety car, they should still be going at that delta speed.
From race control, we do have the safety car in position. We're just waiting for the final part of the barrier and tyre wall to be repaired. Come back to you in 2 minutes.
Right, 2 minutes is Peter Daly, and that's good to hear from the race director, keeping the teams and us, in fairness, informed of what's going on. That gives the teams a little bit of hope, a little bit of communication to the drivers to say, this is what we're understanding. So, yeah, okay, 2 minutes before they get an update, then at least 2 minutes for a safety car lap. 5 minutes of racing?
Yeah, best case. I'm just worried now. I'm looking at the circuit workers. There seem to be fewer of them, and almost we just want to go and shout them, saying, "Please, we've got 9 minutes. Let's go faster." Like, get the marshals involved. They do a great job. They can put those tyres back. Let's get some urgency going. It's like when you work with students at a coffee shop. They're just useless, and you need to shout at them. It's the only way you can motivate some people, I think. And I might just go and do it myself now.
Right, off you go. We'll go to the pit lane, I think, because Bryn is on his toes here. Who's he got next? Let's find out.
Well, Rob, spoke to you earlier and you said what you don't want is a safety car.
Yes, well, it's played into all the other cars' hands because we had a nice healthy lead, 10-second lead, but, you know, with the clock ticking down quite quickly now, hopefully there won't be too many laps, and we've got a gap, I think, of a couple of GT4s between Ricky and Johnny Adams, so hopefully he can get away and maybe hold on to the win, so fingers crossed.
Cars are all in position. There's 8.5 minutes left on the clock. It's ticking down, as you say, and all that hard work you put in there can be undone with a moment like this.
Yes, it is, and you know, the safety cars have been the downfall for us this year because every time we broke away and had a championship, a good lead on track, there's been a safety car, and we've lost the lead. So I'm just hoping today we can continue keeping the lead, or just like make sure we get on the podium.
I suppose one of the good things, if it stays like this, doesn't restart, of course, you win the race, and Mitchell and his teammate Alex will be down in 5th.
Yeah, well, that's sort of, you know, I don't want to wish out on Alex and Sandy because they're my teammates and they're great guys. But listen, yeah, it's that busy end of the business end of the championship, and we've got to do whatever it takes to win.
Just how much of a threat is Johnny Adam behind you?
Johnny's always a threat, but he's a nice guy, and hopefully he won't do anything silly. And yeah, I'm sure if the move's on, he'll go for it. But I'm just praying that he doesn't do anything silly.
We'll have to wait and see. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Johnny Adam doesn't often do silly things, does he? Le Mans class winner. You can count on the fingers of one finger how many times he makes a mistake. He is a very, very solid driver indeed. Right, the tyre barrier operation is just about done down at the Melbourne hairpin. 7 minutes of the race remain.
Yeah, just again a little worried looking at the circuit workers there. They've got another few tyres to move. Hopefully then that JCB Manitou, which I just saw in the background, was doing my biggest wish of my life there, was getting out of the way. So I think we've got a chance of going to safety car procedure in the next 2 minutes, and then probably maybe a 3-minute shootout. So potentially 2 to 3 laps of racing for these GT3 cars, and then we've got a chance to see what Johnny Adam can do. I think Johnny Adam, Sandy Mitchell, they're going to be the guys on the move. Smalley had great pace at the start of the stint, fastest lap of the race, but I think he just dropped off a little bit after that, and that's why I think Adam and Mitchell are the guys on the move. Johnny Adam, Aston Martin factory driver. Aston Martin, like clinical winners in everything they do in GT racing. They play to the rules very, very well. And I'm not going to go any stronger than that because I've been in one of their cars and they've allowed me to be part of the program and what they can do in terms of getting performance out of the car, and they do it very, very well. In my opinion, probably the best manufacturer in GT racing at making sure their car is competitive, and I just wonder, is that going to be the difference today? We saw Johnny Adam roughly 4 to 5 tenths a lap faster anyway, but I think he's going to have a good chance of getting the race win today if we go back to green.
And as far as the championship is concerned, this would keep the Collards on 164 points. And with another place having been gained to put them up into 5th, as it stands now, Mitchell and Martin will be on 136.5. So it goes down to the wire at Brands Hatch. It's another 2-hour race there, where a win is 37.5 points rather than 25 for a 1-hour race. So it keeps the championship open, keeps the championship alive, even though it's advanced.
Safety car procedure. Safety car procedure. All cars speed up and catch the safety car. Safety car lights on.
And there on the instruction, lights on. Lorna Vickers, the safety car driver, Formula Ford racer herself.
All cars accelerate to catch the safety car train, please.
And Peter Daly, you can tell, wants to get this race up and running. He doesn't want to be wasting these 5 minutes as people plod round. The Collards, well, certainly Ricky is on his toes, ready for a restart. But again, you can't really restart the race if, for example, the back of the queue is at Goddard's when the leaders are coming into the corner. You know, you've got to give the back markers a bit of space to get away from the race leader. That's why he wants them all to speed up.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi F1 star you're alluding to. We can't do that. You have to do things properly, even if you're under pressure time-wise. It was that 2 minutes I thought. We've been under full course yellow as well for more than 20 minutes. So these tyres will be very low on pressures and temp. GT4 leader here. We had a comfortable lead over the Ginetta that disappeared into the tyre barrier with suspected, obviously, braking issues. Now has Seb Morris behind in the 31 Mercedes, Hopkinson behind him, Jack Brown. Investigation pending under this full course yellow procedure as well. So it could be a 4-car battle, I think, potentially for GT4 honours as well. What are we going to get? Because the back of the train is only at the old hairpin. Safety car at the last corner. They could just about catch by the end of this lap, but the safety car lap just coming across the line now was 3 minutes, and that was with it. So this is going to be so tight. I think we've potentially got 1 lap if we can get the safety car in this lap. Everyone needs to push as hard as they can.
Yeah, the safety car is sort of going as slowly as it can to let people catch up, but as quickly as it can to let people get warmth into the tyres. So there's a fine line now for the safety car pace to be at. We're down to 3.5 minutes. It's going to be 1 racing lap, isn't it? Because there is 31, that is Seb Morris, and he is the wrong side of the safety car. So the GT4 battle now.
Safety car to speed up, safety car in this lap. Safety car to speed up, safety car in this lap.
Right, I still think it's going to be pretty much 1 racing lap given the time it's going to take Lorna Vickers to get around on the start and finish line, but we'll check. Safety car in this time. GT4, sadly, has been spoiled by the safety car. Just the positioning of the GT4 cars in relation to the GT3 cars, because it means that the leader, 71, Charlie Robertson, has been able to escape. Everybody else was behind 63. They have lost out. We'll go racing this time. GT4, then, we pretty much know the win. GT3, well, flip a coin, because in a lap, Johnny Adam on the tail of Ricky Collard, I think Ricky's going to just about survive. I think so, because of the amount of laps. I have to give a massive credit to Peter Daly, how he's handled this situation.
I'm the first one to say race control have messed up things, always as a driver. Obviously, it's never my fault, but he has done this A-star perfect to get this back underway, to give us some green flag running. Now, this is the game. This is what we said was going to happen. The safety car lights are off, so Collard is in control. He's going to go as slow as he can to make that GT4 car hold up the teammate of Petrobelli. He shouldn't be going under 40 kilometers an hour, which is the minimum speed stipulated, but he is very close to that.
But the slower he goes, the less chance of another lap within the 2 hours. He wants to time this so that when he comes across the line, and Barwell will be on the radio, no doubt, saying, right, okay, now you can accelerate. When there is less than a flying lap time left in the race, they'll get him to push. And Ricky Collard is starting to edge away just a little as he pulls the pin now down to the Melbourne hairpin.
I think he's really close to getting 2 laps in here. If he crosses with anything more than 1 minute 29, 1 minute 30 to go, it will be 2 laps. Collard crossing both sets of fingers there. In 1 minute 38, Adam can't overtake this Lotus yet. I think he's done a perfect job, but it is going to be 2 laps.
It's a brilliant restart by Ricky Collard, because that pesky Lotus in GT4 pace, Johnny Adam could only overtake it now. He lined the car up beautifully, but he's 3.7 seconds back, and that is a lot to ask. We've got 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock then, and Ricky Collard is away and gone. It looks as though it is going to be a second win of the season for the Collards, but Johnny Adam is going to drive this last lap / 2 laps absolutely like qualifying laps.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it is 2 laps. Let's work on that theory for now as we come around the old hairpin. He's done a really good job. It's hard. That Lotus wouldn't have wanted to ruin the race, but effectively has. But it has given Smalley still got a chance here, hasn't he, on the back of Neary. Plowman is a lap down, so you have to discount that black and pink paddock. GT3 and Neary is off deep in there. Was that helped by Smalley, sorry, or was that tyre temp not being where he needed it?
One would fear tyre temp, wouldn't you? Because as they came across the line, it was tense between them. So car in the gravel, and we've got half a minute of the race to go. Down towards the S's comes Ricky Collard, and after the great effort of the Nearys, yet again, it comes to nothing. Possibly tyre temp or brake temp, or it might have been a puncture because, of course, tyre pressures would have dropped. There might have been a bit of debris on the road, but this at the moment is the key story. Ricky Collard trying to hang on for a race win. The clock has 15 seconds on it as he comes up towards Goddard's. He could back it off and make sure he doesn't do another lap. He won't be caught by Johnny Adam. What does he do as he comes out of the last corner? 6 seconds on the clock. 5, 4, 3, 2. He crosses the line with 1 second to spare. He's got to do another lap, but he's got 4 seconds in hand. He's stretched the margin. This is the answer to the Mercedes, and there's a little bit of smoke and a wobble, and yeah, it's a tyre. front left's gone.
Yeah, exactly that. You've called it completely right. And driver, obviously, Sam didn't get any warning there. The cars do have a TPMS, tyre pressure monitoring system, so they could see what is going on. But that must have been a real fast one. You can't imagine the tension he's under. And this is as easy as it gets with the lead. But how many punches have we seen today? Is there one more in this story to go?
Not here, there's not, because safely through McLean's goes Ricky Collard, and Johnny Adam in the first sector of the lap was 2/10 up, but it's not enough. It is going to be a Collard victory, as in the background Sam Neary trudges away. Poor reward that after a great drive by Dad and Lad, but it's the other Dad and Lad combo in GT3 here, heading for the win. Ricky Collard down towards the S's then. And you can pull his leg about the fact that it was his father that had to do the hard work, because much of his stint was under full course yellow. He just had to drive around for 20-odd minutes. But on these last couple of laps, he's had to push and he's had to control that restart absolutely perfectly. So Ricky Collard then, he's been a race winner in GT World Challenge Europe. He has been a race winner in British GT. He's been a touring car racer. He's been a front runner and a race winner in Formula 4 and GB3. He's about to have a second British GT win of the season. For Barwell Motorsport, for Lamborghini, for Rob and Ricky Collard, it's going to be a win at Donington. Checkered flag at the ready. The Collards win again. Over the line goes the Lamborghini. Second, Johnny Adam and Giacomo Petrobelli, only just because right with them, Adam Smalley and Sean Balfe. For fourth place in the end, because they gained one more spot thanks to the Nearys and therefore narrowing the championship deficit, Sandy Mitchell and Alex Martin. So they were sixth, they're up to fourth in the end. So things have improved a little bit and the championship situation continues to be fascinating. Fifth over the line, Phil Keane. Sixth, Lewis Plato. And this is going to be your GT4 winner. Great effort by Charlie Robertson, but a real hat tip to Ravi Ramyid for a great first stint.
Yeah, I think both winners in class are down to the AM. Rob Collard in GT3, Ravi Ramyid in GT4. They have done a mega job and they were the difference today, which has let them win that. I called Barwell liars, saying that their strategy was either to finish first or fourth. What have their cars done today?
First or fourth?
They were lucky with that.
There is a very happy Rob Collard, who's pretty chuffed, no doubt, with yet another victory and a winning margin of 3.2 seconds. He'll make his way to the podium and will be grinning from ear to ear once Ricky gets out of the car. And Ricky has the brightest smile of anybody in the GT paddock. There is the Charlie Robertson Ravi Ramyid BMW. Second win of the season for the BMW drivers. Excellent effort. And we also, with some crude maths, because of that third place finish, would offer you Adam Smalley and Sean Balfe as outsiders, but still in contention just for the outright championship, as well as their already won silver AM crown.
Yeah, being super strong, being a silver AM, they should obviously not be able to challenge the Pro-Am with the gold rated drivers versus Smalley's silver grading. So they have done really well all season long.
Ricky and Rob Collard are your winners at Donington Park in the penultimate round of the British GT Championship. They're chased home by Giacomo Petrobelli and Johnny Adam. The podium rounded out by Sean Balfe and Adam Smalley. Fourth, Sandy Mitchell and Alex Martin after an early puncture. Ian Loggie and Phil Keane's Porsche debut nets fifth, and Carl Cavers and Lewis Plato had a really good solid run sixth ahead of Andrew Howard and Jessica Hawkins. Mark Smith after a spin and a trip through the gravel, eighth with Martin Plowman's help. Matt Topham and Josh Rowledge ninth, and Callum McLeod and Mike Price after a troubled race in 10th. 13th after losing 2 laps early on, Maxi Goetz and Kevin Say. The Nearys classified 11th on distance, ahead of Sasha Kakad and Hugo Cook, who were off the road early on in the race too. 14th then, the GT4 winners, Charlie Robertson and Ravi Ramyid, ahead of Seb Morris and Charles Dawson. And third in GT4, and winning their class, the silver part of it, Jack Brown and Zach Meakin. So a fascinating race, as we predicted. It's a shame we didn't get a few more racing laps at the end, but even so, lots to talk about, lots to analyse, and lots of hard luck stories as well, such as John Ferguson, who was a retirement early on. Ian Duggan retired early on with damage, so out was Mark Radcliffe, Matt Nicol-Jones and Will Moore retired, so did Morgan Tilbrook and Marcus Clatton. And perhaps the most significant retirement, causing that full course yellow after what looked like a brake issue, Freddie Tomlinson, after Aston Miller had worked that car into the lead of GT4. So it's bad enough crashing out, bad enough when it's a failure, but even more so having had such good pace early on. There's the second place car. So he's still on 19 wins. He's still the joint most winning driver. He's not the most winning driver, but Johnny Adam, I think, will be very happy with that after a tough season. And as Giacomo Petrobelli suggested in the interview, that car now in a much better place than it was at the start of the year.
Yeah, obviously new to British GT this year, the Blackthorn team, new car this year as well. So a couple of things to be learned, I'm sure, on both of those fronts, and they're definitely now getting there. And I think with a slightly longer end to the race, Johnny Adam had a chance there. Interesting, I don't think the safety car actually helped at all. I wonder if Johnny could take it back. Would he have rather green flag running to the end? We saw him 9 seconds behind with 35 minutes remaining. Could have been quite a different story, I think, today.
Johnny Adam with a new helmet design. I think he's celebrating, is it 20 years of racing this weekend, or this season, and so he's gone for a new helmet colour scheme. But there is the winning car, as into Parc Fermé comes Ricky Collard. Drivers, you can see, clamouring out of the cars, but the winning Lamborghini arrives, as do cameras, both for TV and for static images, and Ricky Collard will clamber out of the car. The Collards demolish, dispose and recycle. Well, they've demolished the opposition. They have disposed of one or two people's championship hopes. And Johnny Adam being told by Rob Collard, I'm really pleased you never quite got close enough. On top of the car, though, is a delighted Ricky Collard. His dad is somewhere making his way across. Well done, Ricky. Second win of the year. You can see how much that means to him.
Yeah, you can see the damage it's doing to the roof as well.
And he's the lighter of the two. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. There's not much to him, is there? But yeah, that just must be the most amazing feeling. Winning a race like that with your dad, who's been an absolute legend, pace and performance-wise. So fair play to both those Collards. They have really demolished them.
Well done, Ricky and Rob Collard. Bryn Lucas is down there as well.
Well, just saw Ricky leap off the car there, made some nice noises as it did so. Rob, you've watched on. Show us your fingernails, because that was a bit nervy at the end.
I must admit, I was really nervous. You always think something bad's going to happen. But, you know, I'm really pleased that he's held on, you know, and the safety car, I think, normally, like I say, it's not really worked for us, but it didn't leave enough time for anybody then to catch up. So
he done a mega job, didn't he?
not bad for an oldie.
Show us the teeth, Ricky, because they're so white, you might as well show them off a little bit here. That smile, the whitest smile on the grip, we call it there, and we get to see it again.
I need Colgate to come sponsor me. But no, it's just, that's first blood, I think, now, going towards Brands Hatch. We really needed that as a team. Or our team, you know, unfortunately what happened with Alex and Sandy, I feel really sorry for him, but, you know, we've been on the receiving end of some bad luck this year, and to actually be on the receiving end of just a good solid run was really nice. So we've gone completely different directions with setup as well. We're trying something now new, which has seemed to work really well. So I want to say a massive thank you to my engineer Charles.
Charles, come in.
Who's done
He doesn't want to come in.
It's his magic that's made it for us this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's done a good job.
He's done an incredible.
They certainly have. Look, I mean, we believe Barwell also won the team's championship as well, so well done to them. But before we started, we said first and fourth, right? Which one we take first or fourth? And that was the story. And Barwell finished first and fourth here today, going to Brands.
You should buy a lottery ticket on the way home, because you called it. And we thought it would be the other way around, with Sandy winning and us coming fourth. But yeah, thankfully for us, it's worked in our favour, and I'm really pleased that Ricky's done a great job yesterday and today. And I done what I had to do, and it's good.
First blood onto Brands Hatch for the finale. Good luck.
Yeah, what are we going to call it? Brands Hatch, Lambo Hatch.
Showdown.
Showdown at the Hatch.
You guys you're not for the thinking, right? Just get in the car and drive, all right? Well done, chap.
Hey, get to your baby as well.
So the Collards celebrate a win and go off to their copywriting class next to try and work out a hashtag for the Battle of Brands, which will come up in September. But even with the odd clip of the tyre stack, they soldiered on, they battled through, and an outright win, and of course Pro-Am honours in GT3. Let's turn our attention next to GT4.
What a bizarre race, you two. I mean, look at that, middle of the pack, and you finished top step.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, the start was a bit of a kerfuffle, and it was picked a few off. And then I just found a rhythm, did a few track limits because the car was a bit heavy, but no, it was great. You get into a rhythm and it was fine, and you know, before you know it, your hour's up, isn't it? It's a bit chance-like, but it's great. It's really good fun.
You, Ravi, have had the strangest season, haven't you? It's been a tough season, but for yourself, Charlie, even bringing this one home.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked for Ravi to do a better stint then, to be honest. He handed the car over only 8 seconds from the lead of the race, which mixing it with the same lap times as the pros. So for me, I popped out a good chunk ahead and really had to just stroke it home. And it seemed to be going well, building the gap in the lead, keeping it safe on track limits and everything. And then obviously the full course yellow. So that kind of let me cool down. It was actually the first time I think I've spent about 25 minutes, you know, just chilling out with the aircon on, to be honest. So it was quite a nice way to win a race, and you know, it was zero risk at the end. And credit to Century and our engineer Ben. We've had such an up and down season, and to come away from the last 2 weekends with 2 victories is awesome.
It's not bad. It's not bad. On to Brands. Well done.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Well done, Charlie Robertson and Ravi Ramid. There is the BMW then that comes through to score honours within the GT4 class for Century Motorsports. Of course, the successful team not just in GT4 but GT3 as well, and a second win of the year. So what does the Donington round do to the championship? Very provisionally all of this. Rob and Ricky Collard now on 164 from 139.5. Alex Martin and Sandy Mitchell, the near his demise, just giving them a few more points and narrowing the gap a touch more going to the Battle of Brands. Sean Balfe and Adam Smalley third and just about in touch as well, with Ian Loggett and Phil Keane fourth. Then Mark Radcliffe and Tom Gamble and Kevin Say and Maxi Gertz rounding out the top 6, with that second place Giacomo Petrobelli and Johnny Adam up to 7th after second place today. The highlights of Donington's 2-hour race then, with the Lamborghinis battling with Mercedes at the front. Kevin Say, number 18 Mercedes, on the outside line. But his race would be turned upside down almost at the first corner. Contact between him and John Ferguson. The Mercedes tipped into the gravel. It would lose 2 laps while being recovered. And that meant that it was Rob Collard in the lead as more drama came. Mark Warren bouncing off the side of Zach Meakin in GT4 down at the old hairpin. Giacomo Petrobelli, though, was on a mission, moving himself up past Mike Price and heading his way towards the top 3 by the time we got to the pit stops. As there was further drama, into the back of Mark Radcliffe went Carl Cavers. Radcliffe had turned around Matt Topham. Varying levels of damage were accrued. Richard Neary dive bombed Sean Balfe and went through on the inside from Redgate, and that put him into the lead of Silver Am. And a change for the lead of GT4 simultaneously. Through on the inside went Aston Miller, moving himself up ahead of the Aston of Mike Porter. A puncture, though, for Alex Martin meant that 78 Lamborghini had to have an extra pit stop. It tumbled down the order, so too did Mark Smith, who was turned around by Morgan Tilbrook. As the pit window for the GT3 drivers opened, there was the Collards in the lead, and then big drama as off the road went Freddie Tomlinson. That brought out a long full-course yellow period and gave us 2 racing laps at the end. It wasn't enough time, though, for Johnny Adam to claw back the ground against Ricky Collard, but it was enough time for a puncture to send Sam Neary into the barriers. A second win of the year for Rob Collard and Ricky Collard, and they are still the championship leaders, heading to Brands Hatch. So the top 3 teams on the podium, where you can see already with the champagne a very happy Johnny Adam, saturating the Collards. Sean Balfe and Adam Smalley joining them there as well. But after a tough season for the Aston Martin duo, the Blackthorn drivers, Johnny Adam with his back to you, Giacomo Petrobelli happy with second. Poor old Rob's got all the champagne in his eyes. Suddenly winning's not quite so sweet, is it? But yeah, sort himself out in a moment to take the points. The GT4 drivers are all queued up waiting for their podium. And Sean Balfe and Adam Smalley, of course, gained a place overall. They also got back the class win, didn't they, in the Silver Am within GT3, with the Nearys going off the road.
Yeah, just looking at the order there, the Hopkinson Ram Mercedes, that was only just behind Morris, really dropped down. So I don't know if that had a problem or a potential off there as well. But yeah, mega job. Optimum have recovered well, do have that investigation potentially pending. Full course procedure there. Jack Brown talking to Zach Meakin maybe about that, what happened. Charles Dawson and Seb Morris now joining them on the podium. Really strong year, every round almost. They felt like they've been knocking on the door, and no different today.
Charles Dawson's been really, really impressive in his first British GT Championship season, but so have these two, the race winners from the Pro-Am part of GT4, Ravi Ramid and Charlie Robertson, now becoming Charlie Robertson GT4 driver rather than Charlie Robertson Ginetta driver. Having been a factory Ginetta driver for many years, he's now spread his wings, and it's doing his reputation a whole heap of good, isn't it? Proving he can win in different sorts of car.
Yep, and he's done mega. Jonathan Wells from Pirelli there, handing out the trophies, BMW flag as well. Charlie obviously trying to get a free road car from Munich somewhere, I'd imagine. But yeah, you don't just become a fast driver in one car, and Charlie Robertson has proven that point. He's able to take his skill set and play in the BMW and be a race winner. And yeah, mega job by them. And I think they could be proper championship contenders next year, coming back, year under their belt, better luck. Obviously that huge crash for Ravi at Spa has really hurt their championship push.
Now, what does GT4 look like in terms of the championship? Well, it is Jack Brown and Zach Meakin ahead, but Mikey Porter and Jamie Day second, and Charles Dawson and Seb Morris now third. Tough race for Mark Warren and Will Orton. They slipped to fourth, but Ravi Ramyeed and Charlie Robertson are next, ahead of fellow BMW pedallers Ian Goff and Tom Wrigley. Tough day for the Ford teams as well. Eric Evans and Marco Signoretti slipped to 7th, and 15th, Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones. So there in the podium for Silver AMs, Jessica Hawkins and Andrew Howard being joined by Carl Cavers and Lewis Plato. And then it will be Sean Balfe and Adam Smalley coming onto the top step of the podium. But as far as Donington is concerned, it's a second victory of the season for Rick and Rob Collard, but the championship battle very much now a Lamborghini fight. It will be at Brands Hatch that we continue. From Bryn Lucas, Joe Osborne and David Addison, it's goodbye from Donington, and the bullfight will head to Brands Hatch at the end of September. We'll see you there.